Hello, hello. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Mo. What's going on?
Oh, I was on the wrong thing.
How you doing?
Good. I had to pause the other one.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Hey, Heather, whatever. Hey, Lupe. Hey, Team Psych Ward. Hey, Molson Man. Hey, Max 2002. Hey, I've learned a lot. Who else? Amelia. Hello. Hello, Sam. I don't think I missed anybody. Hey, y'all. Hey, it's fucking Friday.
Yay.
Yay. Sorry I wasn't live last night. I don't know. It's been a weird week. I don't know what's going on. Just wasn't feeling it. I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know.
We all need a break sometimes.
Yeah, but I took like 2 or 3 this week. That's a lot of breaks. I don't
No,
this week
this week
was
you did good. It was last week.
well, no, because I didn't go live Monday. I had the premiere. I went live Tuesday, Wednesday, took off Thursday, and I'm back Friday. So,
Oh.
I mean, I did okay. I I appreciate you, Mo, but I'm aware of my attendance.
Well,
I
last
don't
week it was
know.
like a 4-day break, so 1 day break's not bad.
Yeah, yeah. This week was just I don't know what's going on with the universe or what the deal is, but it just I don't know. Everything feels like out of whack. I
I
don't know. It's
agree.
weird. I don't know what's happening. Hold on, let me push pause. I don't know what's happening. So, but I'm glad
I've
to
been
be
in a
back. Hey,
slump too.
Tony. Yeah, it's just I don't know what the deal is. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's this way because February is a short month and like I it's a short month and the weather's changing again back to the way it should be in Florida. So, but it's not all the way back. So, like during the day, you need the AC, but during the night, you kind of don't. But then there's times you kind of do. And it's like, I'm having a hard time regulating the temperature of the house. And oh, is it Pluto, Sam? Oh, of course. I should have known. Um, you see who they don't list ever as being Mercury is in retrograde. Capricorn is acting a fool. Pluto is up to tricks. Who don't they name? Aquarius. Aquarius doesn't ever do anything hinky to cause shrubs. We just go with the flow until we don't. I mean, every once in a while, and you get an Aquarius and you push, 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 and you won't get the ice, you'll get the fire. But you got to really push. Most of the time, we won't do it just because that's what people want us to do is explode on them. So, or me anyway. That's why I don't explode on people because I feel like they want it. And why would I let them have what they want? So I just be quiet. It makes people wonder what you're up to when you're quiet. But anyway, I don't know. It's just been like it's weird. The weather is really weird. It's just I don't know. It's hard to regulate the temperature in the house. Even the animals are like off.
Yeah,
Like,
February here is hard because it's like you're so over the cold by February.
mhm.
You're just ready for it to be done.
Much longer of cold do y'all have?
Well, we had some 51 days and then now it's cold today. I don't know. Sometimes it lasts to the middle of March and sometimes it doesn't.
Oh
Just never
wow.
know.
Yeah, so here like I think it's 70 right now. So it's going to be, we're going to be on a warming trend, which is fine, but um whenever it gets like this, when it does get cold and then gets hot or warm like it should be, when because cold here is abnormal. So whenever a cold front comes through, it's like super duper. windy. And that's what it is. It's really the wind that gets me unsettled, because everything's blowing around and stuff. But um,
The whole world must be windy. It's windy here, and Sam said it's windy where she is.
Dorothy said it's windy where she is too.
I think Allie said it was too. Well, Dorothy's
Yeah.
close to me. Isn't
Yeah. Oh,
Dorothy in
yeah.
West
That's,
Virginia?
uh-huh. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know I don't watch the weather very often because let's be honest, it never really changes here. The only time I ever pay attention is during hurricane season, and like we have a while for that all the way till June. So I don't be paying attention. I used to pay attention in Texas around this time, well, March, because that's when it's, tornado weather, but I don't know. I don't know. The weather has just been really weird this year in Florida, and I'm just not pleased with it. I'm not going to give it a good Yelp or a good Google review. I'm just not gonna. I'm not pleased at all. Just I needed to. I didn't sign up for weather for winter. If I wanted winter, I'd go live in the Canadas with, with Shmita and live like a penguin. I can't. I just. Mm-mm.
Yeah, poor Allie. She said they got a foot of snow last night.
I know.
That's
I know.
crazy.
And then let's see, who was talking about Amelia's all, oh, it's high 50s. No, that's cold. Um, Tony is where yesterday was a possibility of tornadoes, and then now it's cold.
Well, yeah, it
Michelle's
snowed
part.
Sunday here, just like an inch. And then it was like 50. It's just so, ugh, it just makes you like get excited and then let down, excited. I need to be able to go sit outside in the sun.
I know, I know. Well, aren't you coming? You're gonna come visit me soon, right? In March, so then we'll have plenty of sun. I ordered
Yeah.
it special for you. I said, listen, if I got to take a little winter for a while, then make it sunny when Mo comes, and don't be putting people on lockdown either, because that was so crazy. That
Oh, God.
week was so crazy, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun.
No, I do not endorse winter at all. I used to actually like winter, Molson Man, but then when I moved to Florida, at first it was like weird for me because obviously it's weird for it to be like 80 degrees at Christmas time, or like even, 80 degrees or 85 degrees like Thanksgiving time when you're trying to cook a big old turkey, right? And it took me a minute to adjust to that, but then once I adjusted, see, that's the problem. It's the adjustment. Once I get adjusted, then I'm fine, and then I don't want any change. And this is why I'm displeased with 2022, because I'm adjusted. Don't mess with me. I'm just right. So,
I love spring.
me too. Spring is my favorite. It's my favorite. All right. So tonight we have the cross examination of the what's her name? The forensic examiner, I guess, or forensic scientist. I I don't understand why she's being cross-examined for an hour and 42 minutes. Frankly, she's not testifying to anything other than that oh no, Sam, you don't need to move in a tent in the garden. You can sleep with me in the house. You can sleep with me in the house. And
The end of it might be outside of the jury. I can't remember. That was a long time ago.
we don't we're not going to have a tent town in the backyard. You girls are my fam, and my fam sleeps in the house. Um but I don't understand okay, so the end of it, what, 15, maybe 20 minutes of it is outside of the presence of the jury?
I can't remember.
Just
That one
ballpark
was a
it
long
for
time
me,
ago.
babe.
I have no idea. I don't even know if it happens, but
Okay.
it happens
Well,
at a lot of the end ones because that did seem long when you said that.
yeah, okay, so regardless, I'll even be generous and say 42 minutes outside of the presence of the jury.
Oh, yeah,
Why
it's not
does
that
there
long.
well, Why does there need to be an hour of cross-examination for this woman? I'm not diminishing what she did. I'm not, because going out there and collecting the evidence in the right way without contaminating it and sticking to protocol and all of that, that is a very, very important job. I mean, she is the first person to come in contact with potential evidence, and it's important that it be collected, preserved, all that business correctly. That's an important job. But an hour of what could he possibly have to ask her? So I'm going to tell y'all right now, we're going to be listening to this on at least 1.5.
Yeah, because she talks slow.
Because I feel like we need to hear this, because she's going to be the one who lays out the evidence that was collected. That's important. Okay. But at the same time, she is not going to be giving us any like huge results, other than certain stuff was blood and certain stuff wasn't. Okay. But more than that, no. That she's not the one that tested it for DNA and got the results of the DNA, which that would tell us obviously whose blood it was or it was not. That's the meat and potatoes of the case. This is like a watercress sandwich. You know what I mean? Yeah, sure, you're eating it and you're going to have your tummy will be full, but it's not going to taste like anything. I don't know if anybody's ever had watercress sandwiches. They don't taste like anything. And I love a sandwich. That's why I even tried one, because I like snacks, but I also like sandwiches and cheeseburgers. Those are the three things that I like the most. I will move heaven and earth for a good cheeseburger and a good sandwich. And I tried a watercress sandwich thinking, oh, I'm going to be fancy. Look at me. It tastes like nothing. It tastes like water and bread. I didn't even feel fancy. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started, since it's going to be 5 ever long. Hopefully there'll be some good little banter back and forth between the defense attorney and the
Okay, she's
forensic
like an hour,
examiner.
and then it's.
Like
I
I
write
s-
sidebars, but it's really outside the presence of the jury. So,
So like I said, 42 minutes.
right.
That's what
I
I
had to
say.
go look because I was like, gosh, it seems like so long ago I did that one.
All right. Well, here we go. Let's playback speed. All right. Oh, I have to
Oh,
add
I'm
it.
hungry now too, Max.
I'm hungry too, but not for watercress sandwiches.
I like a good
You
old
know what I
cucumber
would be
sandwich.
hungry for? You know what I'm hungry for real, for real? Jason's Deli. They make the best turkey on a croissant with tomato and avocado and alfalfa sprouts. My God, it's so good.
Ooh, I don't like alfalfa sprouts on my sandwich.
Well, you don't have to get it on your sandwich. You can have it without. It's still just
I'd
as
like a
good.
good old Wendy's burger right now.
Wendy's is all right, but sometimes their burger tastes like paper. Don't ask me why I know it. I imagine that's what paper tastes like. I don't actually know what paper tastes like. All right, here we go. Oh, I have to turn it up. I forgot I turned it down.
Foot impressions in Exhibit 67, okay?
Okay.
That's the marker number 1 at the scene on the muddy road, is that right?
Yes.
And marker number 2 at the scene on the muddy road, is that right?
Yes.
Those are visible on the screen right now, is that correct?
Yes.
And those foot impressions are in what appear to be tire tracks?
Yes.
There's here on Exhibit 283. You've seen this before?
Yes.
And you see here on the side, there's the brown, the muddy drive, the muddy road, is that right?
Yes.
And there's a label for the footpath, is that right?
Yes.
The photos that you have of the footpath are just those 2 markers there, 1 and 2, is that correct?
There's more photos of the path that are marked with individual yellow flags, but those are the only impressions that were marked with a number designation.
Okay, and so the only markers that we have, we know for sure, are in the tire path, correct?
They are on the road, right? That looks like there are some other impressions visible.
Marker number 1 is a foot impression, right?
Yes,
That's in a tire path, agreed?
I would have to look at the photo closer to agree or disagree if that is actually in a tire impression.
I'm handing you a copy, so you have one in your hand. Marker number 1 shows a foot impression in the tire path, agreed?
Sir, I can't agree or disagree whether I think that's in a tire impression.
Your answer is you don't know?
I can't tell from this photograph.
Okay. And same question for foot impression number 2 that we see up on the screen. That impression is in the tire track. Agreed?
The impression is in the mud. I can't agree or disagree whether that's a tire track or if I would consider that to be a tire track.
Do you see a track in that photo?
I see a lot of impressions, but I don't see an individual tire track per se.
You don't see a line from left to right going from foot impression 2 to foot impression 1 where there's an indentation in the mud that appears to be a tire track?
I see a lot of impressions above markers 1 and 2 and a line of impressions, but I can't really confirm if that is the edge of a tire impression or if that is created from an impression that 1 and 2 are lying within. I just simply wouldn't feel comfortable making that statement either way.
Okay. On that same photo, at the top of the photo, do you see a similar indentation from left to right across the screen?
Hi,
Similar
Shmita.
compared to what?
Oh my God, she's giving this guy the business.
Do you see this ridge that I'm pointing to on with the red pointer?
I do see the ridge.
On the other side of that ridge, there seems to be an indentation.
There does.
That indentation that I'm pointing to at the top of the photo appears to be parallel with the markers 2 and 1 in this indentation right here. Agreed?
They do appear to be running parallel. Yes.
And they appear to be about car width length apart.
I can't tell that without a scale within the photograph.
You would agree that tire impression in mud would be a smoother surface than the rest of the muddy road. Agreed?
What is she doing? It looks exactly like a tire
You would
track.
agree that a place on a muddy road where a tire drove across and left an impression would make that part of the muddy road smoother than where the tire had not ridden across.
I believe it would create an impression. I don't know if it would necessarily be smoother than the remaining portions of the road.
Okay. And you don't have any photos here that you've taken or that you saw at the scene that would show impressions other than marker 1 and 2?
There were numerous overall photographs taken of the scene that documented the road, the trail
Uh-oh. What happened?
of foot impressions
Sorry, guys.
that would show impressions that were present. And no more additional close-up images.
These are the only close-ups you have.
I would have to look through the photos again to confirm that.
You were asked some questions about whether you observed other impressions at other places on the muddy road. Is that right?
Yes,
You were there at what time at night?
9:30 p.m. through 6 a.m. the following morning.
Fair to say that the sun is down during those hours?
Yes, it was.
So you were never there at the scene when the sun was up?
That is correct.
Fair to
And you were
say
asked
you're
questions about what
salty about
observations you
being
made
there
there
at
that night in the dark.
9
Is
to
that right?
6.
Yes.
And you'd said there that night when you were in the dark, you were not able to make observations of other impressions of a body, a face, a knee, an arm, a hand in the muddy road. Is that right?
I did not notice any other impressions of that nature along that road, but I did walk the distance of that road numerous times to get supplies.
Pate
and was
is a liver,
assessing
Shmita.
the road and what may or may not be present as far as evidence related to the scene.
I love pate.
Somebody could have been walking in the grass,
Yes.
I can't
and
do
the
it.
grass portion in that area was more solid surface.
Yes,
And if something had happened, there was no footpath in the grass. Agreed?
correct.
Even though just a foot impression. Agreed?
It would be difficult to find.
It'd be difficult to find if somebody fell in that harder surface in the grass and leave an impression for you to observe there that night in the dark.
Correct.
So just the fact that you didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Agreed?
That's correct.
I want to ask you some questions about,
Is this off for y'all or is it me?
you
It's
said that
just
there's
you,
two different
babe.
ways that you can
I don't know why you
test eventually for
you
DNA
always
evidence. Is
think
that right?
that the lips
Because
are
my
off,
internet's awful.
Evidence to do the test.
but it's not, babe. I promise you,
This is
it's
for you to
not.
take a swab at the scene. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. It's probably
You
because
to
I'm
collect the item
downloading.
itself, bring it back to the lab and give it to the DNA technicians to do that, correct?
Yes.
So I don't want to ask you about the collection in that part. I want to ask you about the swabbing portion.
Okay.
On the swabbing portion, you grab a cotton swab, right?
Yes.
And then you make a decision about where to place that swab, right?
Yes.
It's discretionary.
Yes.
And you see a brown stain and you rub the cotton swab across that brown stain.
Yes.
Sometimes it's very particular, right?
Particular in what?
In a position in where you swab.
Correct. It could be based on what I feel is an area that should be swabbed is up to my discretion. Yes.
And then sometimes it's a wider area that you swab, correct?
Yes.
So depending upon what you see and what you decide, you could swab a area as small as a dime-sized area,
Potentially. Yes.
or you could swab an area 3 inches by 3 inches.
It would be depending on what I'm trying to locate. I typically don't swab areas that large.
Okay, what's the largest area that you
Hi,
swab?
Mia.
I can't.
How are
can't
you? I haven't
recall.
seen you in a
And
while.
in this case, you don't recall in
Vincent, what's
particular how
up?
large of an area you swabbed when you were looking at marker 13 on the side of the trailer,
That's
Well,
correct.
let me
or
say
marker
this.
14 on the side of the
Vincent's missing
Correct.
here.
or the marker on the side
Not
of
the
the
whole
vehicle,
Vincent, just
Correct.
the
or
ear.
marker 2 that's on the rear driver's side door on the frame of the door, driver's side, correct? We can show you a photo of that here.
Sure.
Find it. Exhibit 96. Be able to see marker 2 there,
Yes.
and the area to, as we're looking at the photo, to the right or to the rear of the vehicle is the area that you swabbed. Is that right?
Yes.
And you're not able to tell us today the specific position that you swabbed, correct?
Correct. I wouldn't be able to tell you where within that entire stain I specifically swabbed because we don't document that.
And you would agree with me that you could swab in one space and get one DNA result, and an inch over get a different DNA result. You would agree?
That seems unlikely unless it were a sample of a mixture. When you sample or swab a stain within a scene, you're looking at areas that kind of like patterns or stain areas or locations, and then you swab and it's representative of that area. So if I would have seen additional stains within that stain, I would have perhaps pursued swabbing in a different fashion than a stain that appears to just be maybe a transfer stain across that surface. I would have no reason to believe there'd be additional reasons to swab from numerous locations within that stain.
But in answer to my question, you would agree that in certain situations, the DNA could differ from one position to another position.
Hey,
as small as an inch away.
Kimberly.
That could be a possibility, yes.
You talked about transfer, is that right?
Yes,
And so this exhibit that we're talking about in particular, you use the term transfer, is that right?
yes, I did.
Because that does not appear to be a drip, is that right?
That is correct.
It appears to be, my layperson's term, a smear of blood perhaps from clothing.
I will say that I'm not an expert in blood stain pattern
We probably
analysis,
shouldn't
so I don't want to make conclusions regarding the types of stains. However, I am trained to recognize basic patterns within a scene.
be. And you use the term transfer there.
I
correct?
did, yes.
Why did you use that term?
It's because it's a very light stain that appears to have just been brushed across the surface of that vehicle.
Okay, and what you're saying is you don't know what item, whether it was a person or a clothing or something else that did the brushing, so to speak.
Correct. I have no way of knowing that.
She is a spicy meatball.
Exhibit number 97. Okay, we look at that.
She's not
Been asking
playing
some
with
questions about
homeboy here.
the photo on the marker 3 on the back
It's
of the
like,
trunk.
you're not going to get me to answer yes or no or say something that I
Yes.
don't want to
And
say.
that's
Kinda like
back of
her.
the trunk, is that right?
Yes,
And you would agree that does not look the same as a transfer on marker number 2. Agreed?
correct.
All right. And so you took a swabbing of this marker as well, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you were talking about
Well, I'm
previously that
glad
you'd
you
seen
did,
foot
Mia.
impressions at the rear of the vehicle.
I need to work
Yes.
on doing
Were
more
you were clear whether the
afternoon
impressions were of a foot or footwear, if I recall, is that right?
lives too.
That is correct.
You just saw impressions somewhere in the rear of the vehicle.
Yes,
You don't know, as we sit here today, you have no memory of where they were in relation to the rear of the vehicle.
to the rear of the vehicle, and I'd have to look at a directionality closer to the driveway that is marked on the sketch.
So the passenger, closer to the passenger side of the vehicle.
Yes,
And marker number 3, you would agree is on the passenger side of the rear vehicle.
it is toward the passenger side of the vehicle. Yes,
And in relation to the footwear impression that you observed, but you don't have a particular memory of today, you're saying it's behind the vehicle. When I say directly, it's somewhere behind the vehicle. It's not off to the side at an angle. Agreed?
it was not directly behind the vehicle, but there was a lot of activity within that impressions in the soil or the mud at the rear of the vehicle and off to the side.
Okay. More than one?
Yeah,
And that's near the trunk area, is that right?
to the trunk and towards the passenger side. Yes.
Could I see exhibit 95? Marker number 1, there was on the rear passenger door, there was this stain that you observed. Is that right?
Yes.
And that appears to be a drip.
A heavy concentration of blood.
Correct.
Yes.
It's going from top to bottom as gravity would dictate.
I can't tell the directionality of
Let me
that.
see exhibit 94. You would agree now, looking at exhibit 94, that it goes from top to bottom in a manner consistent with how gravity would affect a liquid,
It is a stain that's in a line.
going from top to bottom. Yes?
I can't really see where, it would be an assumption to say that would be from top to bottom.
Okay. So you're saying it could have been from bottom to top.
It could have been. Yeah.
You agree gravity worked from top to bottom.
I do, yes.
And I didn't mean to be a smart aleck there. You're trying to be very precise with your words, and I appreciate that. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. And so. whether
Yes,
it's
you
top to bottom
did
or
mean
bottom
to be a
it's up and
smart
down, right?
aleck. Come
Yes.
on,
Okay.
man. She's giving you the business.
I want to ask you some questions about
Wait.
the
This
shoes.
isn't our first day
Okay,
on Earth, and
if I
it's
could
not
see
our
exhibit
first day with
75.
sarcasm either. I'm fluent
The
in
shoes
that.
were exhibit
Come on,
237 and 238 that we saw here in person when you pulled them out of the bag. Is that right?
Are you referring to the shoes from the scene or from inside of the vehicle?
The Nike shoes from inside of the vehicle.
You know what y'all are
pulled out
making
of
me
the bag
want
here
is some
and
dang
marked as
Kentucky
237
Fried
and
Chicken.
238.
I only
Yes,
like
the
it
black one,
very
right?
Yes,
once
the
in a
sneakers.
while,
Yes.
and I only get the
I want to ask questions
breast.
about those. All right.
And I don't like
This
their
is all
gravy.
your fault. Now everybody in chat's
They were
hungry.
found in the
I
back seat of the
know.
car.
I
Is that right?
know.
Yes,
Underneath a coat.
yes,
And on top of the coat was Mr. Woodworth's body.
yes.
This impression here at marker number 5 is outside of
I'm
the
literally the
driver
worst, but that's
side
what I
rear door,
want
is that
is
right?
some Kentucky
Yes.
Fried Chicken.
And if we look at-
It is, Max. It's nothing but
exhibit 285.
we
There's,
need.
certified
That's
for
merch
your call
right
P5, is
there.
that right?
Yeah, it
And
is.
that's the
This
same
crime-
evidence marker 5 that we see
This
up on the screen,
crime,
is that
this
right?
chat is
And that
crime and
22,
snatch.
follow that arrow position right outside of the door, correct?
Yes,
You photographed that, correct?
yes,
You're not able to take a cast of it because that's just outside of the ability of your lab.
Man, Molson, man,
A
if
cast-
that were
a
me,
cast of
I
that
would be
impression
raising
would
all
have been
kinds of
collected.
Could have been
canes.
collected.
yes,
Okay. And so you chose not to do so.
that is correct.
A
Snatch.
discretionary choice that you make on the scene.
I love snacks. It's my favorite.
The, I could see exhibits 100, 101, and 102, I think.
You know what else I could go for right now too is Whataburger, but they don't have that here in Florida. Not in my part of Florida.
Uh,
I miss that
That's,
place.
Photo of the shoe that was found in the rear footwell behind the driver's seat in the vehicle, correct?
Yes,
And as you mentioned on that photo, you observed a
Yes, Team
presumptive-
Psych Ward. I'm going to work on that
brown
this
or a red brown
weekend.
smear on the
A
inner
true
portion of
crime and
that
snatch
bottom
channel.
sole.
yes.
Did you do a presumptive test for that?
I would need to refer to my notes to see if I did or not.
And so you have those notes with you?
Yes, I do.
Do you have them up there with you?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Well, get your notes, girl.
He's like, well, then go ahead.
Refresh your memory.
yes, Jeff.
Did you do a presumptive test of that reddish brown stain on the bottom of that shoe?
No, I did not.
If we go back to, apologize here, exhibit 75, marker number 5, there appears to be a reddish brown stain in that photo. Agreed?
Yes, there is.
Did you take a swabbing of that reddish brown stain there?
Oh, I like
No, I
Del
did not.
Taco too, but only once in a while. I only like their chicken
You
tacos.
talked
That's all
about
I
not
ever
knowing
get.
about the order of
Their chicken soft
the
tacos.
impressions or imprints in the
They're
ground.
the
Is that
only
right?
place I ever
You
get
agree
soft
with me that
tacos
the-
too. I don't
what we
really
see
like
would be the
soft
last
tacos that
impression.
much
Agreed?
because nobody gets the
Somebody
tortillas
stepped over
right.
that, it would have
They're too thick.
disrupted that, disturbed that, not left it in that condition. Agreed?
That would be possible if someone stepped directly on top of the impression at marker 5, then that would have been disturbed.
Because the reason that there's an impression left is the ground is soft, right?
Yes, it was.
So if, assuming it's someone around the same time and the ground was still of the same consistency, a person stepping on top of that would have left another impression over the top of that. Can we agree on that?
That would be very likely, yes.
Okay, and so what we can agree on, this would be the last impression into that soft portion of the ground, right?
Into that portion of the ground, yes.
And were you able to determine the directionality of that impression? Where's the front of the shoe impression and where's the heel of the shoe impression?
There are additional photographs of that impression with a scale that would show the directionality that I would want to refer to speak
Refresh
to
your
that, yes.
Is your memory as you sit here now that the direction was towards the rear seat of that car?
I would want to refer to my notes before I made that statement.
Okay.
You guys know what we don't have here by me? It is like the Dairy
We'll come
Queens
back
that
to that. We'll
serve
have somebody find
food.
that.
They're all like Orange Julius over here. I think there's like one, but it's not close.
Okay. Exhibit 101.
I do love a Dairy Queen steak finger basket. I'm not gonna lie.
the-
I do like that.
Bottom of
I
the
like
same,
all kinds of
shoe that we
stuff that's
previously
not good
looked at
for
on
me.
Exhibit 100, correct?
But I also like Publix fruit bowls.
I believe so. I just don't have the exhibit numbers memorized.
Sure,
So
I appreciate that.
I'll sell my soul for a Publix fruit bowl. I'm not even playing. Those things are so good.
And then exhibit 102, 100 and 101 appear to be the same shoe, is that right?
yes,
That's 102, which is the right shoe. And then we can go back to 101, which is the bottom of the left shoe.
Yes,
And then 100 is the bottom of the same left shoe with the angle that shows, you go to 100, sir? Thank you. Which shows the reddish brown stain that there was not a presumptive test taken on, right?
correct.
So as we're sitting here in this trial, we're not going to be able to know if that is blood and if it is
I don't
somebody.
know.
I
in
think
particular.
so, Amelia, because at
went
the
through
end
further
of
testing, I don't
everything, he
think
says, and bond continues.
But if my memory serves me correct, you didn't.
She
do a
was
swab
allowed
of that
out
at all,
on
did you?
bond during
The
appeal.
item was physically collected in its entirety, so if
Hold on, let
further
me
testing
push
was needed,
pause.
it could have been swabbed for analysis.
Okay.
Please
On
hold.
appeal?
Okay. Listen to, okay. What,
Alright.
when did they say and bond continues?
He says it at the end of when they close for the day. He'll say, and bond continues.
Oh, okay. That's, well, I thought when you said at the end, I was thinking that you were talking about when the trial concluded, because you can apply, most people don't get it, but to be out on bond waiting for appeal. Usually murder convictions, they don't allow for you to be out on bond while you appeal your case, but so she has access to actual product and actual curling, hair utensils. Okay. And this is what she chose to do. Wow. Hey, listen, I appreciate that, Kimberly, because they don't have a whole lot. I don't know. Florida's weird. Like, I don't know. You'd think that there was okay, I can't find a good Mexican food place. Cuban food, yeah, but not Mexican. And, sometimes you don't want to, of course I can make it myself, but sometimes I don't want to make it myself. Sometimes I want somebody else to make it. And I'm real picky about if the beans and the rice are not good at the place, that's what I'll try first. And if they're not good, if you can't make good rice and you can't make good beans, you can't make nothing good. So I'm out. I'm real picky.
I just found the best Mexican restaurant here. I love it.
I'm never invited to your house. You're always invited to mine. Maybe one day I'll be able to sample that Mexican food place, lady.
That would be something, since it's no longer at the scene, it would have been something that somebody like Kevin Scott would do.
But I love some Dairy
Who's-
Queen.
who's
I'm not even going to lie.
Kevin Scott, the DNA analyst. I'm sorry. I forget. Yes, a DNA analyst would perform those tests.
Okay. All right.
In
But
and
as you
out
said, you
tastes
don't
like
know whether or
Sonic
not
to me.
There's any way to tell that today, correct?
Correct.
I don't think it's all that. You know what I want to try is Fat
Put on
Burger.
screen the
Those look
picture of
good.
exhibit 616. Does that appear to be the same foot impression by marker number 5 that we were previously discussing?
I love Cuban food,
Yes,
but
that is the impression
sometimes I
that
crave
has the
Mexican
ruler that you were
food,
mentioning, is that right?
especially some good
Yes.
tortillas.
And let me do this.
I
I've
can't
got
ever
3
get 'em
photos.
here.
I'm going to come up and show
I
them to
couldn't
you.
really get 'em
You tell
good
me
in
which one you want to
Texas
shadow.
either.
That one's- that's it.
My mom used to send them to me from Arizona. They're like real thin. Oh my gosh. They're like paper thin. They melt in your mouth. They're so good.
Is there one that's
They just put too
better
much
for you to look at
baking
than another?
soda in them. Here, I don't really.
No, I don't have
It's
a
too
preference.
thick.
Okay. Let's just chat about the one we already put up there. 616. Based upon this exhibit, are you then able to refresh your memory as to the direction of that impression in relation to the open?
Also,
Your
on a
photo?
side note, Mo has been sending me
So, you can see
screenshots
at the
from
bottom of
some of the
scale,
trial
the arrow
days.
pointing
Hold
north.
on, I don't want to
North
yell
is
over
towards
her.
The
Mo has been sending me screenshots from the different trial days, and let me just say, Ezra McCandless is 87 ways to wear that blazer. She has mix and match that. I'm surprised she hasn't worn it as a head wrap or a scarf at this, or a skirt, hell. But she's worn that blazer 87 different ways. I'm impressed. I
I
got to give
know.
it up to her.
I
It's
started
impressive.
thinking I was going out of order because I was like, how is she still wearing this blazer? And it's got to be a different day. But she'd have something on different underneath it. But she likes that blazer. And I don't know why Katie is all of a sudden like, I don't remember. When with the prosecution, she knew everything.
Well, yeah, because she had her notes.
She has
And-
them now.
Yeah, but she was told to look at her notes. See, that's the thing. These are games. You don't do anything on the witness stand that they don't ask you to do. So if he's asking you questions, you answer the questions. if you need your notes to refer to them, you don't volunteer that information. It's the attorney's job to ask you if you looked at your notes, would that help refresh your recollection of the events? But you don't offer to do that. Doesn't
Right.
matter whose witness you are. Either way, that you don't help the attorneys. That's their job, because you're not allowed to. So if he puts up pictures like this and he isn't specific, or he doesn't ask them in the right way, or he doesn't give her the opportunity or suggest to her to look at her notes, she doesn't volunteer to look at her notes. She's not allowed to. You're not, as a witness, you can't do that. They have to let you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Makes
She's
sense.
spicy.
Well, yeah, she's spicy. I wouldn't listen. Can you imagine if I was a witness?
God.
I mean, even if I were being paid by somebody to be the witness, they could put me up. This one's going to be hostile. It doesn't matter what you ask her. It doesn't matter whose side she's on. She's going to be hostile. Just approach her.
We do have a
delicately.
hostile witness
Oh, I can't wait.
in this trial.
Oh,
Yes,
I
we
can't wait.
do.
I love me a hostile witness. All right, here we go.
Road. So the impression is either going towards or away from the vehicle. I'm not a footwear examiner, so I can't really conclude in what direction that impression is being. I wouldn't feel comfortable making that statement, but it is either going towards or away from the vehicle.
Just because I'm north orientated, I'm going to turn this around, and now north is to the top on the screen. Do we see that?
Yes.
Same photo, right?
Yes.
Right. If that's north, to the left of that photo would be to the west. Is that right?
Left would be west. Yes.
Okay, I screw that up all the time. So, and to the right would be east.
Yes.
To the bottom would be south.
Yes.
Okay. And so we can agree that on the left side of this photo, the shoe appears to be wider than on the right side of the photo. Can you agree to that?
I do agree with that. Yes.
Okay. And on exhibit 285, north would be to the top of this. Is that correct?
Did she just snarl?
Can I go stand underneath there? Can I go stand behind the rail here, Judge?
I didn't see her snarl, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen because I was looking at something else.
So both
Oh,
this
she
photo and this
snarled.
are both to the north now. Is that right?
Okay, then
See that?
why you
Yes.
didn't make a declaration? Why you
Well,
asked a
it was-
question?
The impression we're talking about is
rhetorical.
Oh, okay.
here where my finger points. Is that right?
Yes.
North is that way.
Yes.
And then this is into the west. Is that correct?
Yes.
On the car is on the west side of the trailer.
Yes.
The trailer is on the east side of the car.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, she thinks this guy's dumb. She's giving him some face.
Questions about, I believe it is the back seat. Is that exhibit 107 there? So, yes, thank you. So on exhibit 107, showing marker 8, that was presumptive blood on marker 8 and marker 9. Is that right?
Yes.
And then on exhibit 109,
I'm just gonna let this play, you guys. I'm gonna go have a cigarette. I'll
that's
be right back.
markers 10,
Shmita,
11, and 17. Is that correct?
Watch the
Yes.
class.
And those are also presumptive blood, right?
Yes.
Then on marker 112, or excuse me, exhibit 112, those are markers 12, 13, and if I recall from memory, 18.
Yes.
And those are presumptive blood as well, correct?
Yes.
And then on exhibit number 118, that is a marker I can't see with my old eyes, 21 and 22 perhaps? You agree?
Yes.
And those are also presumptive blood.
Yes.
And so on all those last 4 photos that we saw, the reddish brown stains that we see in the entrance to the back seat of the vehicle and then the back seat are presumptive blood. Is that right?
Yes.
And then here on this photo, we see where this white strip is, a defect in the rear seat. Is that right?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that that appears to be somewhere in the middle area of the rear seat. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
The door that we see that's closed, that's the passenger side door.
Yes.
The perspective is we're looking in from the driver's side.
Yes.
This defect, you don't know when or how that got there, correct?
Correct.
So you just know that there's you called it a tear, I believe.
Yes.
And then if we could see, I believe, exhibit 112 again. Again, there's another defect on the rear of that seat, is that right?
Yes.
And that's again something you called a tear.
Yes.
You don't know how that got there.
No, I do not.
But fair to say that both this tear and the other tear are consistent with being punctured by a knife.
I can't make that statement.
You can't rule that out. Agreed?
That's correct.
I want to ask you some questions about the presumptive blood at the scene on the ground, okay?
Okay.
I believe on exhibit 72, thank you. We see, this is again the scene there, correct?
Yes, it is.
And at marker number 9, that's presumptive blood. Agreed?
It appeared consistent with blood. However, I did not do presumptive blood testing on the scene.
Okay. Number 9, you took a sample of it,
Yes.
and then at some point did you test it with this? What was the fancy test that you called?
The phenolphthalein. is the
Phenolphthalein.
test.
Did you do that?
I did not. That could be a function that is performed within the DNA unit.
Okay, because you didn't take a swab there, you collected the grass, that was something for the people at the next step down the line. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay. And 10 and 11 are the cigarette butts.
Yes.
3 and 4 are the boots.
Yes.
And then as we see up at the top there, that's number 12 where my red dot is, correct?
Yes.
Again, you took a sample of that, correct?
Yes, I did.
You can't say whether it's presumptive blood because you just took the sample and passed it down the line.
Yes.
All right. And then number 81.
New York is over. Here's my chance.
You're not afraid of hell. Sometimes I think I'm already there.
Oops, I forgot this commercial. Sorry.
Welcome to Chicago, Tommy.
Here again, this is the scene where we see number 11, which is the cigarette butt.
Yes.
Number 6, which is the navy blue blanket.
Yes.
And then again, we see number 12, which is up past the driver's door near the trailer. Is that right?
Yes.
And then on the side of the trailer is number marker 13, correct?
Yes.
And you did do a presumptive, you took a swab of that, correct?
I collected a swab. Yes.
And you did a presumptive blood test for that?
No, I did not.
Okay. And then here where my pointer is, that's number 14, agreed?
Yes.
And you took a swab of that?
Yes, I did.
And again, did you do a presumptive test on that or not?
No, I did not.
All right. And then number 83. This is again a close-up of marker 12 where you took the sample.
Yes.
And then number 14, agreed?
Yes.
And all of those are again documented on Exhibit 285, which is labeling where they are according to their numbers. Is that right?
Yes.
You would agree with me that E14, E12, and E15 are all south of the open car door.
E12, 14, and 15.
12, so
Yes, they would be.
south.
The door would be open, and those would be south of the car door. Yes, I would agree with that.
All right. And then if we can go to the next one, I believe that's 88 that's 15,
Yes.
which is again, you took a sample of that reddish brown stain, agreed?
Yes.
And obviously we can see where that is in relation to the car because we see the front driver's side tire stuck in the mud, right?
Yes.
And it's again pointed out here on the Exhibit 285, exactly where it is, south of the open driver door.
Yes.
So there appears, if we can go back to 72, it appears as if there's reddish brown stains on both sides of that open car door to the north, as well as number 12 to the south and 15, which we can't even see here because it's up forward in the dark degree.
Yes.
On both sides of that doorway, there's reddish brown stains.
Yes.
Exhibit 76, I want to ask you about the blue blanket. We see the marker there of 6, that's to indicate the blanket, is that right?
Yes.
This, where I'm parked on the ground, is eventually, well, that's different than 9, I apologize. Is there a sample taken of the reddish brown stain under the blanket?
No.
The blanket itself was collected.
Yes, it was.
And the blanket itself, you have no knowledge whether the blanket itself was ever tested in some way for DNA, agreed?
Right. I don't know.
Exhibit 6A, the cardigan, I want to ask you about that. I believe that was, well, we can see it right there in that photo, can't we? I want to ask you about the, what do you call the cardigan that you pulled out of the bag earlier, okay?
Okay.
We can see that in the photo there, correct?
Yes.
Then you pulled that cardigan out of what bag was it? I want to make sure I get this right. Exhibit 207, sound about right?
Yes.
And the cardigan that you showed us had buttons on it,
Yes.
and it had no tears, agreed?
I did not see any tears just looking in the room with everybody.
And it was there at the scene, correct?
It was.
When you were there, Ms. McCandless was not there, agreed?
That's correct.
You don't have information as to what Ms. McCandless was or was not wearing when she arrived at the farmer's house, do you?
No, I don't have that
When she
information.
arrived at the hospital?
No, I don't.
Are you aware of what, if any, other clothing what, if any, clothing Ms. McCandless had that was sent to the crime lab?
I know clothing was submitted to the laboratory. However, that wasn't anything that I handled.
Okay, have you seen pictures of that clothing?
I have seen pictures. Yeah.
Showing you what's been marked as 619. Do you recognize the item in that photo?
I have seen that photo before. Yes.
So you do recognize it?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So the item in Exhibit 619, you agree is not the item that we see up in that exhibit, correct?
Correct.
This is Item 619 is a photo of a different gold sweater. Agreed?
That looks different. Yes.
Permission to publish?
No objection.
All right.
May,
Again, this photo here, marked as Exhibit 619, is different from that's a photo of a sweater that's different than the photo that you pulled out of the bag that was at the scene, right?
Correct.
Okay. And are you aware whether either the photo, if we can switch back to the PowerPoint, whether that cardigan that's in that photo there, which is Exhibit 76, whether that cardigan was tested?
I don't know that answer.
And do you have any knowledge as to whether the sweater in 619, whether that was tested?
I don't know.
I want to ask you some questions about the coat, all right?
Okay.
That was in Exhibit 236 that you pulled out of the bag, the big black coat, is that right?
Yes.
About 3, 4, 5 bags that you had to dig it out of, right?
Mhm.
That was in the car, is that right?
Yes, it was.
You would agree it was not on Mr. Woodworth's person, agreed?
Agreed.
As we can see in Exhibit 72 and as well as 84 and 85, he was not wearing that photo, or he was not wearing the photo. He was not wearing that coat, agreed?
He was not.
The coat is, in this photo, you can't see it, but you know based upon later knowledge that the coat is underneath his body.
Yes, it is.
Um, So that's another picture. He's on top of the coat in that position, is that agreed?
Yes.
And then on Exhibit 87, I believe, is where we then see the coat in that footwell, is that right?
Yes.
And the coat, as when you held it up, were you able to make observations of the defects to the back of the coat?
I did see defects. Yes.
Okay. I think I asked you this, but just make sure we agree. He wasn't wearing it. It's on the ground.
It's right. It's on the floor of the vehicle.
And underneath the coat are his shoes,
Yes.
or at least a pair of Nike shoes that we've previously talked about, right?
Right. The Nike shoes.
And those, so we agree the Nike shoes were not on his feet.
Correct.
In the pictures that we'd seen previously, we saw that he was not wearing shoes. Agreed?
Agreed.
You would agree that the foot impression at marker number 5 was of a shoe rather than a foot. Agreed?
It was a shoe. It was a shoe impression, or there was the tread was visible. Yes.
Okay. All right. I want to ask you some questions about the hair that was found there, okay?
Okay.
There was you said a clump of brown hair found on top of the coat that we've just been discussing. Is that right?
Yes, there was.
And that's shown there in exhibit number 99, correct?
Yes.
And the sticker number 4 is actually for the coat. Is that correct?
4, and then I sub-designated with the A, so that is it is pointing to the hair as 4A.
Okay, I did not catch the A, so thank you for the clarification. So the coat is 4, and then the hair is 4A.
Yes.
All right. And then number 98, did you see another? That's showing just number 4 without the A, which is designated for the coat. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then on exhibits 104 and 106,
Tony ain't giving no extra points.
that's a clump of hair in the rear driver's side footwell, agreed?
Yes.
And so that would have been underneath the black coat that we've just been talking about, correct?
Yes, it was.
And either underneath or next to the Nike shoes that we were talking about.
Yeah, in that vicinity. Yes.
Okay. And there's marker number 7 there, and that's indicate that particular clump of hair.
Yes, it is.
So we have 2 clumps of hair, one clump designated as 4A
Yes.
and one clump designated as 7.
Yes.
And you collected both of those clumps and passed them down the line for somebody else to do DNA testing.
Yes.
All right. You have exhibit, is that one 6? Okay, so that's another picture, exhibit 106, that's a picture of the rear passenger, the rear seat, correct?
Yes, it is.
And we see there on the footwell, just at the bottom here, sticker number 7, is that right?
Yes.
And so it's in that vicinity where the second clump of hair was that you found and collected, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Now,
she's not
in this
feeling
photo,
this dude, not at all.
You agree that there's no hat on the back
Tony,
of
you're
the
right.
driver's seat, is that right?
That's correct.
There was a hat there, correct?
I don't recall seeing a hat.
You were not asked any questions in your direct exam about a hat, correct?
I was not.
Oh, he's finna bust out a picture of a hat. Here we go.
Showing you what's been marked as exhibit 620, 621, and 622. Are those photographs taken by Ms. Blackston or the crime scene or the crime lab?
I don't think they have I don't think they have
Yes, it
taco
exhibits
salad at
621.
Wendy's anymore.
622
Do they?
and 620 were all
They
photos
used
that broke
to,
the
but I
top.
don't think
You're
they have
familiar
it
with those photos?
anymore.
Yes.
Not at
They
all
accurately
Wendy's.
represent the car as it was received at your lab, correct?
Yes, they do.
Move for the admissions of 622 or 21, 620, 621, and 622.
Any objection? No. All right,
That
exhibit
might
620,
actually be
621,
good,
and 622 will be
Tony. I
admitted.
might try
Permission
that.
published by the Elmo.
Yes, you may.
Oh, they still have them there, Mo?
Exhibit
I didn't know that.
620
They don't have them at
is a photo
everyone.
of
I know
the
they don't have them at the one by
rear,
me when I
of
was
the
in
vehicle. Is that
Texas
correct?
for sure.
Yes.
I haven't
And
ate
then we can
Wendy's
see
in a
the-
long time though.
Sure. 31, 620 is image 31, 621 is
Oh, they
image
d-
33, and
Wow.
622 is
I
image
didn't.
34.
I don't think they have them here because Lonnie and I
So
were
back
talking
to
about it.
Exhibit 620, that's the back of the driver's seat, is that right?
It is.
And that appears to be a hat that is halfway on that rear of that driver's seat, is that correct?
Yes.
And if, one of the pictures I believe you have of the trunk, contents of the trunk, there showed the hat, is that right? Or was the contents of the rear of the vehicle, I believe?
I would have to look at the photos to see if it was collected with the contents from the rear or the front.
Sure. Found it, thank you. Showing you what's been marked as exhibit 433. It's been previously admitted. Is that a photo of the contents of the rear of the vehicle?
Yes, it is.
And in that photo, we can see the hat. Is that correct?
That looks like the hat, yes.
Winter hat without a little bop on the top, correct?
I don't remember much about the hat, and I didn't collect it as an item of evidence, so I don't know if it had a top or not.
So no testing of that hat. But here in exhibit 620, we see that it was partially on the back seat. Is that right?
Yes, I do see that.
Then on exhibit 621, in the upper portion of that, we can see again the hat on the back of the
Hey, nonstop
headrest. Is that
mom.
right?
Yes.
Good to see you,
And then
babe.
from the other angle here on exhibit 622, we can see the hat halfway on the headrest. Is that right?
Yeah.
You don't know how that hat got to be in that position that you see it here in the photos, do you?
No, I do not.
You don't know how it got to be just partially on the back of the headrest, correct?
Correct.
Whether it was fully on before and got taken off in some sort of struggle or not, you don't know.
No, I don't know that.
But we know that it's partially on in that photo.
Correct.
You talked about concerns about contamination as part of your investigation, is that right?
Yes.
And that's because something as small and tiny as DNA can sometimes be transferred from one person to another person into a place, is that right?
Yes.
It can be transferred, that's why you wear the gloves, to make sure that if you touch the coat and then you later touch the sweater, you're not transferring something from the coat to the sweater.
Yes, that's correct.
And it's the same thing because people can sometimes transfer, like you at this, they're not wearing gloves and you're out at the scene, you can transfer DNA from one place to another, agreed?
Yes.
So it's very important in your line of work to make sure that you're not contaminating items of evidence, right?
That is correct.
That's like rule number one in your world,
Yes.
the most important rule, correct?
Very important, yes.
You were at the scene and you saw the pillow that was collected at the scene, is that right? Is there a pillow?
There was a pillow.
And the pillow it's marked in exhibit number 285, is that right?
The pillow is documented in the sketch, however, it was not collected as an item of evidence.
And when you say it was not collected, what do you mean by that? You left it at the scene?
It was placed into the vehicle.
Okay.
And it was documented as being in the vehicle when it came to the lab. And it was not collected. I did not consider it a piece of evidence or collect it for further testing.
But what somebody at the scene did is they picked up that pillow, correct?
Yes,
And they took the pillow and they put it inside the car.
that is correct.
And they put it on another piece of evidence inside the car, correct?
Yes,
That pillow could have contaminated whatever pieces of evidence it was touching, agreed?
that's a possibility. Yeah.
I mean, essentially, that's a breaking of one of the cardinal rules in your world, right?
The pillow I believe I placed the pillow in the vehicle so that we didn't leave an item of evidence at a scene, as well as some deer antlers that were outside. I didn't view it as contaminating the vehicle or any of the items within inside of that vehicle.
But you agree that there was a pillow at the scene,
There was a pillow.
despite what you previously said you did collect it, correct?
It was placed in the vehicle, submitted to the laboratory, and then returned to the agency with the vehicle.
Showing you what's been marked as exhibit 631. Is this a picture? Can I do it this way or do I need to? Go through that maybe? That's fine. This is a picture of the pillow, exhibit 631, is that right?
That is, yes.
And this is a picture of the pillow that you took from the ground at the scene and placed on top of the painting, is that right?
Yes,
And that's exhibit number 624, correct?
yes.
There's nothing separating the pillow from the painting, is there?
No, there's not.
So that would be breaking protocol within your world, correct?
If the pillow itself contained blood, then yes, that would, but there was no blood visible on that pillow.
You didn't test the pillow, did you?
No, I did not.
You didn't take any collections from the pillow, correct?
No.
And other than blood, there's other ways for DNA to get on items, correct?
That's correct.
DNA is invisible to the human eye.
Right.
So whether there was DNA on that pillow or not, you can't say based upon your observations, correct?
That's correct.
The better practice would certainly not to put the pillow on the painting. Agreed?
Not ideal. I'll agree with that.
Whether it did or it didn't contaminate it, you don't know, correct?
That's correct.
But that's exactly why you have the policies and procedures that you do, is because you can just never know, right?
Yeah.
There's no,
That's all. Thanks.
there's no merit
Mr.
for
Cross?
an objection.
Okay, Mr.
There's-
Harmon,
Or
redirect.
grounds, excuse me.
Just briefly, there were some questions, Ms. Hoffmeyer, about the lighting, the fact that you were there in the dark. Is there supplemental lighting
Maybe
brought in for a scene? You're processing
argumentative,
something in
but
the middle of the
that's
night?
pushing it.
Yeah, occasionally additional lights will be brought in. We have lights, a lot of different lighting fixtures that we carry on the crime scene response vehicle that we can bring out to the scene, and we have a lot of really good flashlights.
Did you feel like you were hindered by darkness when you were processing this crime scene?
No, I did not.
There was a question or a line of questioning about the possibility of different DNA being contained in the same single stain.
Correct.
Did you see anything about the stains that were sampled in this processing of the vehicle that would have indicated that there was any reason to believe there were multiple sources of DNA?
It's something that I can't know from just looking at a stain, but as I described before, you select areas of stains that are present and you believe that those are representative of the stains in that location. And if I felt like there was a need to document more, I would have definitely done that.
You're a supervisor at the crime lab. We've established that, correct?
Yes, I am.
Are you familiar with submission guidelines?
I am, yes.
If you could explain for the jury what submission guidelines are.
The laboratory has submission guidelines for the evidence that they will or will not accept for testing. And each discipline at the laboratory has their own set of submission guidelines that they follow.
For different types of cases, are there exceptions where more items of evidence will be received for analysis than other types of cases?
The laboratory will put a priority on homicide investigations and will typically accept more items of evidence for those types of crimes.
If you're aware, was that emphasis or that exception followed in this case?
If it's pertaining to the items that were submitted for DNA analysis, I don't oversee that unit, so I'm not sure what exceptions would have been made for this case.
Those submission guidelines, while there may be exceptions made, are there, even if it's a homicide case, are there still limitations on the number of items that will be received at the crime lab?
Yes, there are limits on the numbers of items they will receive per submission.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, you recross.
While there's limits on the number of items that may be submitted per submission, you agree that there is not a limit on the number of submissions, correct?
Can you repeat that sentence?
You just testified and told the jury that there's limits on the number of items that can be submitted to get tested per submission. I believe that was your testimony.
Per submission, yes.
But you agree that there is no limit on how many times submissions are made. Agreed?
A lot of that is handled on a case-by-case basis based on the needs that are expressed from the law enforcement agency and the attorneys and what is needed for that case. So I'm not sure if there would be a limit. There will be a time when the lab just cannot continue to test items.
Sure. But there's nothing written in the policy to say you can only make 3 submissions or 5 submissions or 10 submissions. Agreed?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's a case-by-case analysis, correct?
Yes,
It's discretionary.
yes,
And the agency that is submitting it gets to make a pitch to say, here's why this is important, correct?
yes, they would express the need for the investigation, yes.
And then your lab or somebody at your lab would make decisions on whether they would be persuaded to then do additional testing on that additional submission. Agreed?
They would make that determination, yes.
So you agree, essentially, there's no limit to the amount of items that could be tested, right?
I don't agree with no limit because we can't test thousands of items of evidence due to the resources that we have within the laboratory. So there is a limit that would be reached at some point, but it's handled on a case-by-case situation.
Molson, you need
So
to
the limit
get
would be
out of my
something
head
less than
because I
1,000.
was thinking that the other day when
Much
she
less than 1,000,
testified
yes.
the first
Probably
time.
upwards. I'm sure you've had cases in which there's more than 100 items.
Yeah, yes.
It wasn't this case, though.
I don't know exactly how many items were tested within this case.
That's all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hoffmeyer. You may step down, and then I imagine you're free to leave.
Yes, Judge, just to make sure we don't need her, I forgot to move to admit the exhibits that I'd referenced and put up on the Elmo. So we can do that without Ms. Hoffmeyer.
I think so.
All right.
So I've been released from my subpoena.
Yes.
I believe so. You're good to go. Thank you. All right. I'm not sure how many photographs you had, but 620, 621, and 622 were received.
I made a bit of a mess, so if I can come up here and try to sort it out. I believe
You made reference to 616.
621, 622. and 6/20/20, 21, and 22 were the hat, which I would move for admission of.
Yeah, 6/20, 21, 22, there have been received.
6/19, the sweater.
Any objection?
No.
State. All right. 6/19 will be received.
6/16, 6/17, and 6/18, the pictures of the foot impression with the ruler near it.
What, 6/16 through 6/18?
Did I believe just 6/16 ended up being the one used? It was placed on the elbow and then presented to the witness, and she was allowed to pick which one, and there was only one selected of the three, I believe, that was used.
That's fine. I think they're all the same, but I'd move for all three, but I understand their objection.
All right, so you're offering 6/16.
Yes.
Okay, 6/16 will be received. Is there any objection to the others?
No.
They're all the same, but,
No.
so if you prefer, that's fine. 6/16, 6/17, and 6/18 will be received.
And then I believe I made reference to 6/31, the pillow. Move for the admission of that.
Any objection?
No.
Okay, 6/31 will be received.
And when, to be honest, I don't recall exactly which folder.
You could probably skip the outside the presence of the jury, else we're never going to get through this, really.
Is there more to?
No, she left.
All right. Well, the next, hold on a second.
Are friends of Alex.
Yeah, and those are an hour and a half.
Oh, are they?
I just looked.
Well, you could probably play Samantha Cobbs.
But that's out of order.
No, she's first.
Okay.
Or we could talk about her. Also, I want to say I did my homework and I did research what I was thinking about her doodles. And she did doodle during the trial, and they tried to sell the pictures off.
Okay. How did they get that?
I have no idea unless she's the one that's trying to sell them off. Somehow she's doing social media. I thought that was a fake site.
I mean, she's just all she has to do is call somebody.
Right.
It's not like she's typing it out. Okay, so who do you want me to put on here? Because Samantha, Allison, and Brianna are an hour and a half. Then there's an outside of the presence of the jury for 20 minutes. Then Ariel and Maxwell, that's 22 minutes, but that's out of order.
It's just like play Samantha and we'll see where we're at. And you could stop it and then restart it if it's too long. Because I think each one of them are short.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. All right, hold on.
I should have split them up, but this
No,
was
it's fine.
when I started using the new video editor, which obviously I missed a commercial. But I get better, y'all.
It's one commercial, Mo.
I know, but it really upset me.
Why? But you're doing the look. I'm not doing it, right? So I asked you to do it. You're helping me out. This is one less thing for me to have to do. I don't look gift horses in the mouth. I'm not that kind of person. I know everybody thinks I'm this monster, but I'm not. I mean, I am, but I'm not in these kind of situations. Other situations, I'm quite monstrous.
Lupe, you looked it up too? Yeah. Her social media is the page I looked at is quite weird.
Yeah, it is weird. Okay, so Amelia, there are certain procedural arguments that are made between the prosecutor and the defense. And it usually has to go, it goes to, for example, in this trial, the last one that they had was over this letter. Okay. And they argue about it outside of the presence of the jury because the position of the state was they wanted to be able to discuss it, but not submit it into evidence because the letter is hearsay. It wasn't written by Ezra or Scott. It was written by someone else. Okay. And it's their words. So but it wasn't written to either one of them either. So it would be hearsay, right? So they don't have those type of discussions in front of the jury because then the jury, what if the judge says, okay, I hear what the defense is saying, and I'm going to agree with the defense. We're not going to talk about this letter. You don't want to talk about stuff in front of the jury that they're not going to be allowed to consider, because those errors are situations where that can result in mistrials. So that's why they do that.
Right.
Sometimes,
And
go ahead, what, Mo?
I think probably around 2018 or 19 is when they stopped filming it outside the presence of the jury stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This case has a ton of it.
Well, okay. I feel like it depends. So it
Thank you,
used to
Max.
be back in the day when Court TV they were the first ones to air trials, right? That they were the first channel. I mean, they're not the only person that ever did it, but they were just a channel specifically for trials, right? And they used to film all of it. Always all of it. But I think what's happened is they are moving away from more and more really sequestering the jury because it's expensive. And so they make the jurors take, swear, and they do it even when they are sequestered, but they have more control over juries when they are sequestered versus not sequestered. But there was an argument with respect to the O.J. Simpson trial that because the jury was sequestered and the trial was so long that they rushed to a verdict. Now, the jury will tell you that they did have frustration because when they were sequestered, like at night, okay, after they went home and had dinner or went back to the hotel and had dinner, they would all have to sit and watch TV together, but they all could, they were all like having to vote on which show they wanted to watch. And there were arguments in the jury. And it was just, it was like,
that's like jail.
Yeah. It was frustrating for them. And so they're moving away from doing that now. Well, when they move away from doing that, the fact of the matter is, the truth of it is humans are human. Okay. And it is possible it's very, very possible for a jury member on their way home to watch the trial on either Court TV or Law and Crime Network. And then they would be hearing all the sidebars.
Right.
If nothing else, this just simply prevents them, even if they were to break their oath and watch trial coverage, right? This would at least keep them from being able to hear anything that they are not supposed to be considering in the courtroom as far as this goes. Obviously, there's a whole plethora of like websites and stuff that they could go to and watch, other stuff about it. But this is just one thing that they can do. So I think, and I know that's
agree.
why they're doing it, because it's expensive to sequester jurors.
Yeah, I was
especially
surprised they sequestered them because I hadn't seen a jury be sequestered in a long time. And the Waffle House, they sequestered them.
Well,
but if anybody wants to watch the outside of the jury stuff, it's on my channel if you want to watch it.
Did you make it public?
This trial,
I
made it public.
Oh, okay.
This trial's so long, if we watch all that, we'll never get through it.
No, we won't. So, yeah, that's why they do that. I mean, and I will say this. I am intrigued by this cross-examination. Not so much, it's not Instagram, Max, it's her Facebook. Look up her name on Facebook, Ezra McCandless. She's got a Facebook page.
It's very weird, Max.
It is very weird. But anyway, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. I forgot what I was going to say.
The cross exam was very weird.
Yeah. I'm intrigued by where the defense is going to go with this pillow and this hat. There's a reason why they introduced it. There's a reason why they talked about it. And there was a reason why they pointed out that it wasn't collected strictly by protocol. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a reason
Yeah.
for that. And now I want to know what that reason is. All right, so here we go. I'm going to add this to the stream and hit play. Make sure I have it sped up.
Can you please state and spell your name for the court reporter?
Okay, good.
Samantha Kobes, Samantha Kobs.
What is your occupation?
I'm a high school English teacher.
And did you know a man named Alex Woodworth?
Yes.
When did you first know him?
I started working at a coffee shop in November of 2013, and he was a regular customer, so probably shortly after that.
And is this coffee
I'm
shop
telling
Racy's?
y'all,
Yeah, Racy's Delights.
Racy's is like the
And so
place to
did-
be.
Did you become friends with Alex?
I mean, I don't
Yes,
think
as
there was a
customer
whole lot of
first, so he
other
was there
places to be.
oftentimes for hours, and you just get to know the regular customers really well.
I'll be right back.
And eventually we became friends, and he started working there. at one point.
Shmita, mind
How
the
would you
class.
describe Alex when you first observed him as a customer?
Alex was, we would joke and say he basically lived there because he would come in with books and he would be there for hours and hours. He had his regular spot that he sat in. He kind of looked like a very young version of an old man. We would joke that he would just sip his coffee and read his books and kind of keep to himself, at least when he first started coming to the coffee shop.
And around do you know what year you started to become friends with Alex?
I would say probably towards the end of 2014. Yeah, maybe like November, December, we had become closer.
And were you friends with Alex up until his death?
Yes.
And so would you and Alex hang out outside of Racy's?
Yeah, so it started off as hanging out a lot at Racy's. I think the crew there, when you're not working, you're typically still there hanging out. So it kind of started off that way, but we would occasionally go and grab a beer together, sometimes after work, or just visit each other at work.
And how would you describe Alex's personality?
Objection.
Sustained.
So in November of 2017, did you learn that Alex was involved in a relationship?
Yes,
And did you learn who that relationship was with?
yes,
And who was it with?
Ezra McCandless.
And were you familiar with the defendant?
Yes.
How did you know her?
She also would come into the coffee shop.
Do you know when you got to know her?
It was probably the summer before that, November, so maybe just a few months before that.
Summer of 2017?
Yes.
And I guess if I can back up a little bit from, you learned in November of 2017, Alex was in a relationship with the defendant.
Yes.
Before that, did you know Alex when he was involved in relationships?
What is relevance?
I think based on the defendant's characterization of Alex, I think prior observations of relationships is relevant.
Well, I'm going to sustain the objection unless there's, some.
Okay.
To sustain.
And so you knew the defendant beginning the summer of 2017.
Yeah. Yes.
And she was how did you know her again?
She was a customer. I'd only met her a handful of times. So by no means did I know her well, but I knew of her.
So fair to say you were much closer with Alex than the defendant.
Yes.
Did you learn that the defendant was involved in a relationship with Jason Mingle?
Yes.
Objection. Relevant.
Overruled.
And what did the defendant tell you about her relationship with Jason Mingle?
Objection.
Overruled.
In November, that same November, I had been told that she was trying to actively leave that relationship. There was a day that I went to the coffee shop and I was visiting Alex there and she was there as well. And we were all kind of talking, but I asked her if she wanted to go get a drink. And we went across the street to a bar, which I learned she wasn't old enough to be in when she was asked to leave. And when we were at that bar is when she told me, she kind of debriefed about some of the things that she'd been going through in that relationship. And, I shared some experiences as well. It was kind of just like a bonding moment of, talking about unhealthy relationships and the importance of kind of leaving those.
And so was there anything specific she told you about the relationship with Jason Mingle?
I was under the impression by our conversation that he was very controlling and she seemed to feel uncomfortable and was struggling to leave that relationship.
And do you know when you had that conversation with the defendant when you went to a bar?
I think that was near the end of November, maybe very early December.
And did you later learn that the defendant and Alex's relationship ended?
Yes.
How did you learn about that?
On February 25th, I was texting with Alex. He was going to be coming to my apartment because he was going to take over the lease from my current roommate. And I told him, we were just discussing the lease. And actually simultaneously, I'd received a message from Ezra on Facebook asking if she could come and look at the apartment because I'd made a public post saying that I had a room to fill. So when I was texting Alex about the apartment, I also told him that Ezra had reached out and was showing interest as well. Up to that time, I didn't know that anything had happened between them. but he asked if I could not mention him because they'd had a falling out the day before, which would have been February 24th.
May I approach, Honor?
May-
I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 1, page 2. I'll just stand up here if that's all right. If you turn to the second page of that exhibit, there's some highlighted portions. And if you could read number 30, that's an outgoing message to you. Is that right? Could you read that for the jury?
Yes. Things just went really bad between us, and I don't think she's going to be in town again.
How did you respond?
Oh, fuck. What happened?
And then down below right there, how did Alex respond?
Jason found out and had a fit at Racy's. Ezra got stressed out and blew up at me for not talking about my past. Woke up to a text asking me to forget her name and not talk to her again.
Move Exhibit 152 in evidence.
Okay,
90403, you want to do it? I think the content is already in. I don't know that we need the document 152.
all right, well, I'm going to overrule if you want to. I'll receive it. And again, any objections previously made or noted. Counsel, also your microphone is off, but that's okay. You can keep it off unless you need it. Okay. All right, go ahead.
And after that, did Alex make any steps to move into this new apartment with you?
Yes, he came over and got an application, signed the application, and he had paid the $30 application fee, and then was approved by the landlords and the property manager.
And after Alex sent you this text, did you see him after that?
Yes.
And did you notice any change, visible change in Alex's demeanor?
I went into the coffee shop, I believe it was March 10th, and he seemed troubled. He just seemed more quiet. It was a short interaction that night. And then he came to the apartment on March 13th to meet the property manager. And then when she left, we talked for a while. And I guess I understood why he was upset.
And did you also learn that there was a potential sexual assault investigation pertaining to the defendant and John Hansen?
Yes.
No rule. I think this sounds like a foundational question.
Were you aware that the defendant and John Hansen had some sort of relations?
Objection, no foundation. This witness does not have a foundation to testify.
Well,
Her awareness is not based upon personal knowledge, it is based upon gossip or hearsay.
all right. Well, I guess let's start that way. Let's go back. Foundation, any person.
And I can move on. Did you ask Alex something about the defendant and her relationship with John Hansen?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
That's her statement. So what did you say to Alex regarding a sexual assault investigation?
Objection, hearsay, irrelevant.
Well, so you're saying it's what did this witness say
Yes,
to
what
Alex?
did you say to Alex? It's her statement to Alex.
Well, all right. I'm going to overrule and allow you to answer the question.
I was aware that there was an accusation between the defendant.
Move to strike, no foundation.
Okay, well, I'm going to strike the beginning of that answer, but if you would just answer the question. What did you say to Alex without any background or explanation? What did you say to him?
I said, do you think she's going to also accuse you of sexual assault?
And how was Alex's demeanor when you made that statement?
He said he didn't know, but he wasn't worried about it because he had months worth of text messages to prove that it was a consensual relationship.
And were you personally concerned about living with Alex in this apartment?
Objection, irrelevant, no.
Well, I don't know what the answer is, so
Her concerns about Alex are irrelevant. It's 90404 and 90403, 90402, but in particular 90404, which we had all this hearing about.
I can rephrase.
just, I guess, some indication where are you headed with that? Is this something we need to have a hearing outside the presence of the jury?
No, I can move on. Let me ask you this. Were you in a romantic relationship with Alex?
No.
But you two were going to move in together.
Yes,
Were you going to share a room or have different rooms?
it was a 2-bedroom apartment and we would have had separate rooms.
And do you know if Alex has any reputation for peacefulness?
Yes.
No foundation.
Okay, I'm going to sustain on foundation. I think we just talked about that and the various elements of that.
Do you have an opinion whether Alex has a reputation for peacefulness?
Objection. Same objection.
Sustain.
Okay, do you have an opinion as to Alex's character for peacefulness?
Objection, 9404, no foundation.
Overruled. You may answer that question.
Yes.
Do you have an opinion as to Alex's character for peacefulness?
Yes, I found him to be very peaceful. He was very calm. He was kind of an old spirit, and I felt that we were very compatible as friends because of that.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Ms. Groves, I want to ask you some questions about your comments about this young lady here next to me, Ms. McCandless, okay?
Yes,
You said that you had a conversation with her in November, is that right?
I believe so,
And
yes.
then you bonded based upon both of your experiences in unhealthy relationships.
I believe I meant that the conversation was something that we could, both add to, but I don't know that it was I didn't mean to suggest that we became friends after that.
You had a conversation,
Yes,
and the conversation was about unhealthy relationships.
yes,
Unhealthy relationships that both of you had been in.
yes.
An unhealthy relationship that she was in at the moment she was having that conversation.
I don't know whether she technically was in the relationship or trying to leave the relationship.
Trying to leave would mean that she hadn't left yet. Agreed?
Correct.
So she'd still be in. Agreed?
Yes, but I don't know which she was.
Okay. Either in it or trying to leave it,
Yes,
but not yet left.
yes.
And that in your, what you knew about regarding, based upon that conversation with her, you found her to be weak and vulnerable. Agreed?
Yes,
I think another word you've used in the past is fragile.
probably, yes.
You'd said you were friends with Alex, is that right?
Yes,
Alex had told you in the fall, November, December of 2017, that he was in a relationship, correct?
yes,
He did not immediately disclose who that was, correct?
correct.
He was secretive about that, agreed?
He was respectful of the privacy of that other person.
He was also not telling you, correct?
I wasn't asking.
You had to find out from somebody else other than your good friend who this person was that he was having a relationship with, correct?
I would disagree with that.
You eventually found out who this person was?
Yes.
And you found that out from Alex?
From the things that he said and, thinking about the things that he'd said, I figured it out.
So while he was respectful, he was certainly still telling you about that relationship, right? He
Mentioning that it existed, yes.
mentioned it existed. He also mentioned facts. He mentioned it was a male, correct?
I don't know that he said it was a male. I think he said he was seeing someone who was identifying as a male, possibly. But
So I appreciate that distinction. So he made mention that the person he was seeing identified as a male, correct?
yes,
And that he told you that things in that relationship would get kind of freaky, correct?
I don't know that he used that word.
You used that word when you spoke with the police in describing what he talked about regarding their sex, right?
Yes, I don't know that he used that word, but I do recall having conversations, yes.
So for whatever reason, when you talked about what Alex had talked about, you chose to use the word freaky, right?
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yes.
Your relationship with Alex, you said, was friendship, right?
Yes,
What we commonly think of as platonic, correct?
yes,
You did not have a sexual relationship with him, did you?
No.
You were not dating him, correct?
No.
There was no, for lack of a better term, tension or attraction between the two of you in that category, agreed?
agreed.
Your knowledge of him and his character was based upon your platonic friendship that you had, correct?
Yes.
You didn't read his journals, did you?
I read some of his writing. I don't know what journals you're referring to, but I read some of
So you're
it.
familiar with his writing?
Some of it, but as a writer myself, I think people write differently depending on what they're writing.
Sure. Are you familiar with the portion of his journal from November 9th, 2015 on DOJ 2482, in which he writes, I half-heartedly try to isolate myself from you, afraid I would taint you, yet I love you. I am sorry for this failure.
Okay, hold on. You said November 2015?
I apologize, it's November of 2017, I misspoke. Yes, it's from November of 2017, it's DOJ page number 2482 from his, and I believe I'm allowed to do this on cross-examination.
Okay, go ahead.
You're right. I'm objecting this is not
Well-
McMorris for a witness. McMorris as to what the defendant may have in mind regarding these journals, but not with Ms. Cobbs.
It's not McMorris evidence, it's going to rebut her opinion and testimony, and I can say what she does or she doesn't know in order to bring in specific instances.
All right, well, first of all, I thought there was a relevancy objection, and that was based, I thought you said 2015, so I thought, well, that would not be relevant, but if it says November of 2017, I will allow you to go into that in cross-examination.
Are you aware of his journal from November 9, 2017, in which he wrote, I've half-heartedly tried to isolate myself from you, afraid I would taint you, yet I love you. I am sorry for this failure on my part. I know my touch would kill you, yet I reach out. That is my sin, the violence of my flesh that I lack a soul to correct. Are you familiar with that writing by Mr. Woodworth?
No.
Are you familiar with his writing from December 3rd of 2017, in which he writes, merely doing it as one will sexually makes consent irrelevant?
No.
Are you familiar with his writing from October 29th of 2017, erotics always contain.
Objection, relevance. We don't even know if Ms. Cobbs has seen these. I mean, she's
Well,
seen,
that's the question, whether she has or not.
right. So before he's reading them, I would prefer that she be shown them to see if she's actually seen these before they're read in open court.
I believe that that's a requirement. I get to cross-examine her to see if she knows something so that I can for lack of a better term, discredit her opinion because it's based upon.
I'm going to overrule the objection. Go
And
ahead.
Your Honor, also it's the rule of completeness. These are entire long journals and they're taking sentences out of them to try to make them construe what they really are. So I mean, if we're going to go down this line, then she should be able to see the entire article to understand what Alex is saying.
We have no objection to the admission of his entire writing history and catalog.
Well, due to confusion, waste of time, and so on, and I think we're going to get there at some point. So we're not going to go into the entire journal at this point. So go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
And are you aware of his writing from October 29, 2017, which he writes, erotics always contains violence that cannot be avoided. The secret is not avoiding the violence, but in living with it.
No.
You said that you met with him on March 10th, is that right?
I believe March 10th, I went to the coffee shop.
You
Yes.
saw him on March 10th, correct?
I believe so.
You made observations of him?
Yes.
And
Mr. Nelson, you please put your microphone on while you're addressing the witness.
thank you, Judge. Sorry about that. And when you met him on March 10th and made your observations, as you testified before, he seemed troubled. Agreed?
Yes, he wasn't, peppy and bouncing around the coffee shop like he often was.
He seemed troubled.
Yes.
And then you saw him on March 13th, correct?
Yes.
You spoke with him.
Yes.
He spoke with you.
Yes.
And then you understood he was upset.
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, any redirect?
Yes. Are you familiar with a nihilist or word nihilism?
Yes.
What is that?
From my understanding, it's kind of an outlook in which I could be very wrong. Maybe you don't necessarily see a purpose in life as in like there's a lack of religion and there's no afterlife and that everything just is as it is and things can't be explained.
And would you ever use that to describe Alex?
I think that as a philosopher, I don't know. He was incredibly intelligent, so I don't know that sometimes I understood his views on things, but he certainly was devoid of a religious outlook on life, I think, towards the end.
So would you think he was more concerned about himself or more concerned about others?
He was definitely more concerned about others.
And did you worry about him as a cannibalistic person, like he was going to eat you?
Never.
Did you worry about him being violent towards you?
Objection
Never.
beyond the scope, 90404.
No further questions.
Okay, any, I guess recross, limited to the
Yes,
redirect.
I have one in particular. Are you familiar with his January 1st, 2018 resolution in which he writes, "I need to be more selfish." And he goes on to say, "Selfishness needs to find a place in my values." Are you familiar with that?
No, but that sounds like something he probably would have written.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay,
Well, I can I ask a follow-up to that?
I think that's it. You can step down. And she released from her subpoena?
Yes, Your Honor. That was beyond the scope of my recross, so I feel like I should be able to ask a follow-up.
She
I didn't
asked-
ask about,
She asked if he was selfish and she said no. And
I think that was within your redirect, so within the scope. Okay, you ready with the next witness?
yes, the state would call Brianna Larson to the stand. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Allison Pexel.
Yeah, okay. I was not going to be able to just let that go without commentary.
That
Wow.
was a lot.
Well, I mean,
I think cannibalism comes back into it with the journals, Heather.
see, this is my problem, and I have to agree with the prosecution. Although to be fair, I almost never agree with prosecution because I know what their job is, right? But I have to agree. First of all, let me say this. I don't particularly care for trials where the victim is put on trial. Bottom line, I understand that it is essential in certain situations, but to an extent. Meaning her defense is that this was self-defense. Okay. She was being attacked and, she fought back. But what they're attempting to do with these journals, I don't agree with the defense on this. And I don't think that I don't think it had the effect that he was attempting to gain with it. That's just my opinion, mainly because, she was not aware of his writings. Okay. Specifically like 3 or 4 cherry picked sentences, which I get what that's their job. And I get it. And I'm not hating on them for it. Okay. But, 3 or 4 or 5, 6, whatever it was, cherry picked sentences or phrases that were intended to prove a point. But the fact is that she was friends with him. And he had these writings and he had these thoughts, and yet she was friends with him. People can't hide who they really, really, really are for very long. And they may not always, people's masks slip. And so if somebody is a violent person, okay, those tendencies come out in everyday situations. Some people are better at hiding it for longer periods of time, but nobody can hide it forever. And as his friend, I feel like if he was in any way violent, misogynistic, any of the things that they're trying to paint him as, I feel like she would have seen it. And she didn't.
I agree.
So I feel like this was unnecessary. You know, people, I think journals are just that. These are words that you write that you really never intend anybody to see. These are your private thoughts, private contemplations. I can't tell y'all the things that I think about and contemplate frequently. Do you know that I Googled the other day about karma? Because I was positive that when I read up on karma, because I went through a period of time where I was trying to figure some stuff out, like right after I turned 30. And I looked at all kinds of different religions, although I was raised Catholic. But Buddhism, I was and Hinduism, I was very, very intrigued by, because I could never wrap my head around that deja vu. Because they say that deja vu is a past life encroaching on a present life. And it actually kind of makes sense to me, right? So I don't ascribe to a specific religion, okay? Although I was baptized Catholic, I don't go to the Catholic Church. I'm reasonably sure if I were to enter the church and do the holy water, I'm pretty sure it would leave a burn mark. I'm at least 87% sure of that. Anyway, these are things that you contemplate. And I was contemplating the other day because I hear people use the term all the time. Karma's a bitch. Karma's coming for you. Karma, 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 karma. Karma chameleon. Okay. So it's making me, I was frustrated about it because I don't think people really freaking use that word correctly. Karma is not in this lifetime. Karma happens to you in the next lifetime. So when somebody does you dirty in this lifetime and you have an opportunity to do that person dirty back, if you take that opportunity, you will then do another lifetime with that person. You're supposed to not. You're supposed to get away from doing. There's other principles, but basically that's the main one. Just don't be a jerk, right? So I was thinking about that. And then I was thinking about this case, right? And how they kept bringing up journals. These weren't published works. This isn't anything that he submitted to be published in a school literary journal, anything like that. These were his private thoughts. And I don't think that I just don't see, especially because he was a philosopher. It's not like he wrote out violent fantasies. You know what I mean? So I don't understand I get what they're doing. I just don't like it. I guess that's my point. That's a long way to, go to say that I don't like the way they're going about it. I think there's a better way to do it, but whatever. They're trying to confuse the jury, and I don't think they're going to fall for it. That's just my feeling. I'm not falling for it.
No, me either. I think his journals do get a little intense, but
they're journals.
Really right.
But they're journals. You know what I mean? I think you have to, I don't know. All right. I'm not going to interrupt anymore, but I'm just saying, like, a journal is private contemplative thoughts. There's a big difference between a thought and an action. Believe me, if we were punished for our thoughts, I'm telling you right now, 98% of the world, except for the dogs, cats would be in prison as well. Because I know for a fact cats have evil plots. I know they do. I've seen it on Alice's face at least 11 billion times, and Mac at least 1100. Nestor, on the other hand, when I look at him, he's not a plotting. The only thing he ever plots for is a snack, a treat here and there. But he doesn't even mooch. He just acts extra good. Like the time Alice knocked a meatball onto the floor and Nestor kept pacing and pacing and pacing because he knew it was there and he wasn't going to eat it because he knew he wasn't supposed to. Guess who got the meatball? Nestor.
ELLYSONKEXEL.
I'm gonna have to have you speak up a little bit more. What is your occupation?
I am a barista at Racy Dillion's Coffee Lounge.
Speak up even louder if you can.
Sorry, Andrea.
Sorry.
I am a barista at Racy Dillion's Coffee Lounge.
Perfect. And do you know the defendant?
Yes.
And is she present in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you describe what she's wearing and where she is seated?
She is wearing a light pink blazer. She is seated to my left, to the court's right.
And prior to March 22nd of 2018, how long did you know the defendant?
Approximately a year.
And how often would you see her?
Most days of the week, probably 5 to 6 days.
Was this when she was living in Eau Claire, Wisconsin?
Correct.
And what would you and the defendant do together?
We, of course, spent a lot of time at Racy's together, talking, drawing. I served her when I worked there as a waitress. We would go for walks together. She would shoot photos. We would spend time doing art together occasionally.
And did the defendant talk to you about her relationships?
Yes.
And what did she say?
Objection.
What did she say?
Irrelevant.
I'll sustain in vagueness if you could be.
Which relationships did she talk to you about?
Specifically Jason.
And are you referring to Jason Mengel?
Yes.
What, if anything, did she say about her relationship with Jason Mengel?
Objection. Irrelevant.
Overruled.
Generally, our conversations were about how she felt uncomfortable in that relationship, micromanaged more so.
Did the defendant talk to you about her gender identification?
Objection. This has been document 298. There's much litigation about this.
I'm going to sustain the objection on that. Yes. Wait.
What did the defendant say about her gender identification?
Mostly that she was fluid, meaning some days she felt more masculine than others, that she would off and on wear makeup, change the style of clothing that she would wear.
And were you aware that the defendant and Alex Woodworth were involved in a relationship?
Not until months after.
When did you learn that?
I can't recall.
Do you recall observing an argument on the date of a pop-up art show?
Yes,
And was that on February 24th, 2018?
that is correct.
Is that the date when you learned about the defendant and Alex being in a
I
relationship?
told you, Heather, whatever.
recall.
Skynet is real.
So
And it's a
can you take me
thing.
to this day on February 24th? What did you observe that day? Were you at Racy's coffee shop?
Yes,
And did you observe an interaction between Jason Mengel and the defendant?
correct.
What did you observe?
Jason had asked Ezra to come outside so he could speak with her. It was around the time that we had to leave we were volunteers for the art show. And I went outside to bring her with me. I was giving her a ride there. And they were having what looked like a tense conversation outside in the parking lot.
And did you hear anything during that conversation?
I remember Jason saying something to the effect of,
Objection. Hearsay.
Well, is this offered for the truth of the matter? Is this offered? What is it? What is the purpose for the?
It's just describing, it's not for the truth of the matter, it's to describe the context of that argument.
Objection. Irrelevant.
Right. Well, court has made a provisional ruling. I'm going to allow it. So I'm going to overrule the objection.
he said something to the effect of being upset with her sleeping with his friends.
And what did you observe the defendant doing during this time?
Standing there kind of complacently, in distress. I had, from a distance, asked her if she was ready to go. She snapped at me and said no, that she was in the middle of something. So Brianna Larson and I went to the art show together. She was also a volunteer.
And so did you observe Jason Mengel talk to anyone besides the defendant?
Correct.
Who else did he talk to?
Alexander Woodworth and John Hansen.
Did you observe when Mr. Mengel was talking to those individuals?
Yes.
Was it one at a time or both?
Correct.
One at a time?
Individually.
And so when you observed Jason Mengel talking to Alex, what was Alex's demeanor?
Collected. Cool.
Did it turn physical?
No.
Were you able to overhear yelling?
No. Most of us were inside. They were outside alone. But there was no yelling that I could see from inside.
And so you had talked about how the defendant snapped on you when you were supposed to ask her to go outside or to leave the situation. Is that right?
Correct.
And so did you go to the art show without her?
Yes.
And did you later have communication with the defendant?
Yes.
How so? Did she call you or text you?
She sent me a direct message over Instagram.
And what did she say?
I can't quote that verbatim. Something to the effect of, she apologized for the way that she had talked to me.
And did she ever join you for the art show?
No.
During your friendship with the defendant, did she mention a person named John Hansen?
Yes.
And what did she tell you about John Hansen?
Objection, irrelevant.
Overruled.
Andre, could you be more specific? We were all friends with John. So.
Okay. Was there a time where the defendant discussed spending a few days consecutively with Mr. Hansen?
That is correct.
And what did she tell you about that?
She told me that she had stayed there for the weekend and that she had participated in spending time with John and his son, and that they had made dinner together and things of that nature.
And did she appear upset?
Absolutely not.
Was there anything negative stated by the defendant regarding that few day stay with Mr. Hansen?
No, she seemed excited.
So after the sort of pop-up art show event where Jason Mingle had those discussions, did you see the defendant after that?
I don't believe so.
Did you learn if the defendant had moved?
Yes.
Do you know where she moved to?
Objection, no foundation. Irrelevant.
Well, I'm going to sustain irrelevance, unless you have.
That's fine. It's,
Okay.
Did the defendant talk to you about Alex Woodworth?
Occasionally, just passing conversation. We all knew him, so just conversations as a friend group, I suppose.
Did she talk to you about having a relationship with Alex?
Not necessarily an intimate one. However, she did spend nights there occasionally.
Do you recall her telling you how Alex felt about her?
Yes, there was a conversation about that.
What did she say?
She had told me that Alex had expressed intimate feelings for her.
Do you know what those intimate feelings were?
He, I believe, at some point or another had told her that he loved her.
And did you see the defendant and Alex together at Racy's?
Yeah.
And what did you observe?
Having conversations, sitting together on the couch, sitting closely at times, which wasn't anything uncommon.
And when you observed the defendant and Alex together, did the defendant appear afraid of Alex?
No.
Did you also learn that the defendant would also stay at Alex's house?
Yes.
Do you know when that was?
Multiple occasions, but I don't have dates.
I have no further questions.
Okay, cross-examination.
So you made observations of Ezra with Alex at Racy's, is that right?
That's correct.
And that was essentially from the fall of 2017 up until this event? Thank you, Judge. It was essentially from the fall of 2017 until this event in February 24th of 2018, is that right?
Summer 2017 until March.
Until February 24th?
Excuse me, yes, until February 24th.
Okay. It was during those times where you saw Ezra and Alex sitting on the couch together.
Correct.
They seemed to get along well.
Yes.
They were in close proximity, right?
Correct.
Smiling.
Sure.
Talking.
Yeah.
And you learned from Ezra that according to Ezra, Alex had expressed his love for her, correct?
Correct.
And then February 24th, everything changed.
Sure.
That's all. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No.
Okay, you may step down. Thank you.
State and spell your name for the record.
Brianna Larson, BriannaLarson.
What is your occupation?
I'm a barista.
Where do you work?
Racy's and Skill Shop.
Are those both coffee shops?
Yeah.
And
Skill Shop.
what city do you live in?
Eau Claire.
And back in summer of 2017 to March of 2018, did you also live in Eau Claire?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the defendant?
Chazzle Dazzle live
And how do you
around
know
Eau
her?
Claire?
I met her at Racy's.
And is she present in the courtroom today?
Yes.
Could you describe what she's wearing and where she is seated?
A light pink blazer, and she's sitting in the middle.
Wonder if you ever
left
went
side.
to Racy's.
And when did
I
you
wonder that same
first
thing.
get to know
Hold
the
on, I'm
defendant?
going to push pause.
I met her
real
at
quick.
Racy's. Jason.
Okay. Okay, that's a kind of a complex question. So if, for example, you are a male to female transgender and you have not had the bottom surgery, okay, you go to prison, and they keep you in a separate area, but you're over with the men on the man's side of prison. In order for a transgender, I think this is right. I think me and Dr. B talked about this one time. In order for you to be like I said, a male to female transgender, you have to be living completely as a female, meaning you have to have the name. That's what they call it, the bottom surgery. You have to have your name changed. You have to be anatomically as a female. They do have special housing for transgenders who have not completed the transition, but that's what they do. Okay, I'm gonna play. Hopefully, I let me make sure about that, but I'm like 92% I'm correct on that, because I've watched.
You are correct.
Thank you. Tons of prison shows.
Yes,
So-
because I watch Locked Up. They keep I don't know what you can say on here, but yeah, they keep them separate. Like you're in the men's section, but you're in a different section of the prison.
Right, like a separate, more secure
Yes.
area. Yeah, they don't keep them. They don't commingle because they're vulnerable. All right, here we go.
Correct.
Jason brought her to race season, introduced me.
And Jason, do you refer to Jason Mengel brought her?
Yes.
And did you two become friends?
Yes.
Were you pretty close with her?
Yes.
Did she have a nickname for you?
Yes.
What was that nickname?
She called me her wife.
And how would you describe the defendant when you first met her?
I'd say she was pretty bubbly, easy to talk to.
Did the defendant talk to you about her personal relationships?
Yes, sometimes.
And when she talked to you about them, were they always about men?
Objection irrelevant.
I can't remember.
Well, hold on. What's objection is relevance?
Correct, Judge.
I'll withdraw the question.
All right, it's withdrawn.
When you became friends with the defendant, was she in a relationship with Jason Mengel?
Yes.
Did she talk to you about her relationship with Mr. Mengel?
Yes.
What, if anything, did she say about that relationship?
Sometimes it was regarding how he felt about how she was changing
What's
her image
that
sometimes.
face,
and it didn't make me
Ezra?
feel very good.
What's that about?
So what do you mean how she was changing her image?
She's like changing how she dressed or taking piercings out of her face. She didn't feel
I think
was
she's
appropriate anymore.
manipulated
She just didn't
a
feel like
lot
wearing
of people with
them. Jason. It
Yeah,
was
but
like
I'm
Jason,
just-
how she described it, felt
Yeah.
like he was like the person he was in love with was changing.
She doesn't.
So
She
for like
looks.
piercings, where did she have a piercing?
Septum,
Irrelevant.
septum piercing.
Objection irrelevant.
Okay. Oh,
She's
stop.
crying,
All right.
but she's.
Okay,
I
Ms. Larson,
don't
if there's
think
an
those are
objection,
sad
just ask you to
tears.
stop and don't answer the question until it's been ruled on, okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay, so, Mr. Nelson, you made the objection,
Yes, sir.
and so I'm going to sustain on relevance as far as the,
I think it provides an explanation of the change of the defendant during this time, as well as context on the relationship.
well, the relationship, okay, but some of those other details I don't think are relevant.
Okay. So the defendant told you that so did the defendant talk to you about any other relationships besides her relationship with Jason Mengel?
Sorry, I just like need a moment. I'm pretty anxious right now.
Okay.
It was mostly just like him kind of putting her down about her image and changing it, but
Sure. So I'm moving on though. Is there any other relationships that the defendant talked to you about?
not that I remember right now.
Do you remember her talking to you about her relationship with Alex?
Yes.
And when I mean that, Alexander Woodworth.
Yes.
What did she say about her relationship with Alex?
I don't remember specifically exactly what was said, but
Objection, no foundation. She doesn't remember, but she just stated, I don't think she gets to guess.
Well, I'm going to overrule your objection. If she can, has a gist of what was the conversation, I think that is sufficient word for word. I don't think that's required. So I guess, Ms. Nodoff, please follow up with that. Just lay a little bit more foundation.
So what are you able to recall that the defendant told you about her relationship with Alex Woodworth?
they were just like hang out. Sorry, I'm having a really hard time right now.
Did the defendant say if she liked Alex or not?
Yes, it was all positive things. I do remember that, and I did see like the relationship in person as well. And
And what did you observe when you saw the two of them together?
they would sit close, and they would giggle and laugh about things, and I don't know, share drawings and literature.
Did you learn that the defendant moved out of Jason Mingle's apartment or house at some point in their relationship?
Yes.
Objection, irrelevant, and foundation. I don't know where the foundation is for this when she asked it in that manner if she learned.
Well, to me, again, it sounds like a foundational type of question, so I'm going to overrule. Go ahead.
Do you know if Jason Mingle and the defendant lived together at some point?
They did.
Do you know when that was?
It was right before, I know that when she moved out, it was Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So I know it was up until that point. I don't remember when it started.
And where did the defendant live after she moved out of Jason's apartment?
I'm not sure of specific places. I know that her car was a place of staying, but I don't know if she stayed at specific places other than the car.
Did the defendant tell you what she and Alex would do together?
Yeah, they would, it was like a relationship. It wasn't like details, but they would go on dates, sleep together.
Okay. Did the defendant tell you she was scared of Alex?
No.
Did she ever tell you anything negative about her relationship with Alex?
No.
Did the defendant tell you that she was concerned about what was written in Alex's journals?
No.
Were you also friends with Alex?
Yes.
How long were you friends with Alex?
I'm trying to think of when I first started going to Racy's. Maybe 3 years ago now. I know it was in the fall time. I just got a new job and he'd work nights at Racy's and I went there for a new place to go and meet people. He was one of the first people that served me and became my friend there.
And would you and Alex, you'd always hang out at Racy's?
Yeah.
And did Alex talk to you about his relationship with the defendant?
Yeah, sometimes.
Did he talk about any feelings or emotions he had for the defendant?
Yeah.
And what did he say?
He did tell me that he did love her.
Do you know approximately how long the defendant and Alex were in a relationship together?
I don't know the specific dates. I know it was in the fall time. I found out about the relationship when I went to a fire and she was there and she told me about it. I think it was probably around October. I know it was starting to get cold out.
And do you know when their relationship ended?
Probably around February is my guess.
Okay. Did the defendant talk to you about John Hansen?
Yes.
And did she talk to you about spending time with John Hansen when Mr. Mingle was gone for a weekend?
Yes.
What did she tell you about that?
She told me that her and John hung out for a weekend and she drank a lot of wine and he helped her hold her hair up while she threw up and was just there for her. And she told me she had a really good time.
And when she told you she was having a really good time, did she appear upset?
No.
Did you learn that the defendant filed a report against John Hansen?
Objection, no foundation. It's false.
All right. What? I'm going to overrule.
Can we have a sidebar, Judge?
All right. Excuse me. Objection is sustained, and Ms. Nodoff is going to rephrase your question.
Did the defendant talk to you about an investigation regarding a sexual assault?
I didn't hear it from her.
Okay, then I don't want you to go any further. And do you recall being at Racy's coffee shop on February 24th, 2018, the date of the pop-up art show?
Yes.
And what is this pop-up art show?
It's like an unknown place where the art show is and it's released that day. So people wait to find out the location and see what art is there.
And did you have plans with the defendant for that show?
Yes.
What were those plans?
We were supposed to volunteer, just like help things go smoothly with the art there. Some of it was you could grab it or do other things with it. So we were just there to help people along with the art.
And did those plans change?
Yes.
And how did they change?
Jason came to Racy's that day very upset, and he found out about the affairs that were happening.
Objection, move to strike. Lack of knowledge, no foundation, opinion.
Well, I'm going to sustain, but if you just, Ms. Nodoff, ask her what she observed, just stick to, and here's the thing, I know you're nervous, I don't want to get you more nervous, but you only testified about what you know of your own knowledge, okay? And your own observations, not what other people are telling you, okay? So, Ms. Nodoff, go ahead with the question.
So did you observe a conversation between the defendant and Jason Mingle on that day?
I did. I didn't hear it. I could see it through the windows at Racy's outside.
So
I could see Jason moving his arms a lot. He had a very angry face. And then he came inside and asked John to come outside with him. And then asked, after he had John come outside with him, asked Alex to come outside with him. He was a very stern, angry voice.
And did you observe Alex Woodworth go outside?
Yes.
And what did you observe of Alex when he was out there with Mr. Mingle?
I couldn't see him through the window. But after Jason was done, I went outside and Alex was just sitting on the bench. He was fine. I think that he was just like, I don't know. He was very calm about it, I guess.
And did Alex tell you what happened during that conversation?
We didn't really talk much about it. We had to go to the art show like right after, so couldn't really bring it up. I just asked him if he was okay, and he said, yeah.
And so after this date, did you see the defendant again after the pop-up art show date?
Yeah, I did see them, but it wasn't as often, I guess. I did see them after.
Sorry, who's them?
The defendant.
Okay, and anyone else?
With the group? I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
You said you saw them together.
Oh, no, I just meant like her.
Okay.
Sorry.
And where would you see the defendant?
At Racy's. She'd come by sometimes.
And were you guys still friends?
Kind of. There was a lot of drama happening. I kind of just stopped talking. Didn't really want to be a part of it.
And after February of 2018, this pop-up art show, did you notice any change in the defendant's demeanor?
Objection, vague, irrelevant. Opinion 90404.
Observe any change in her demeanor?
If she wants to talk about a specific date and how she made an appearance, but just a general opinion is 90404.
All right, well, I'm going to sustain the objection. If you have something specific, you can ask about that, but that's pretty general and open.
Sure. Did the defendant, you described her as kind of bubbly at first. Was she still a bubbly, friend when you saw her in February of 2018?
Not so much. I think there was times, but it seemed like she was going through a hard time.
And did the defendant ever talk to you about cutting herself?
Yes.
And what did she say?
Objection, vague at the time.
What were we?
We were at Racy's, we were outside, and it was night out, and we decided to smoke a cigarette, and she talked to me about how she cut herself. And so I talked to her about it, because I've also done that myself. It's just like reaching out. We just talked about it, and how sometimes you need a physical thing to break up the emotional pain.
Do you know when this conversation took place?
I believe it was either late of that year or right in the beginning of that year.
So either December or January of...
Somewhere around that time.
Did the defendant show you where she had cut herself?
Yes.
And where was that?
It was on the arm.
What did you observe?
Just even lines, I guess, on the arm. Wasn't too many.
No further questions.
All right, cross-examination, Mr. Nelson.
Yes, thanks. Just follow up right away about that. How are you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Okay. I want to ask you some questions about this conversation you said you had with Ezra the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, okay?
Okay.
And it was about her telling you that sometimes it sounds like she was in emotional pain and she needed to break that up by doing something physical, correct?
Well, it was...
The cutting, that's what I
Right,
meant.
we're
She
talking
told you
about
that,
cutting.
and she told you that the reason she did it was she was in emotional pain and wanted to do something physical,
No, this...
break it up. That's what you had said. Agreed?
She didn't specifically say that to me. I talked to her about it, and I said, it's okay. Like, I've done that sometimes. We can do that to break up the physical pain from the emotional pain. 'Cause emotional pain can be too much.
Understood. I misunderstood it before. So these were your words that you shared with her.
Yes, talking to her about
Sure. Kind of a,
trying to be a friend.
a mirroring. She tells you something and you're like, you're not alone.
Yes,
You're saying this happens, correct?
yes.
In fact, I suspect within your friend group, it's not uncommon. Within people your age that you talk with within your friend group, it sounds like this act that you talked about, that's not uncommon.
Objection relevance.
I wouldn't assume that on my
Cross-examination.
friends. Sorry.
Okay, just stop. Court didn't get it. Okay, so Mr. Nelson, you asked the question, state objection relevance. I'm overruling the objection. You can answer the question. I think you did, but do you remember what the question was? Because we didn't get it down. What was the answer to the question?
I'm kind of confused by the question.
Sure. You were talking about, as we're talking about cutting, and you're sharing that that was an experience that you've done, correct?
Right.
And my question to you is that act that you were talking about, cutting, to, as you say, deal with the emotional pain with something physical. My question to you is, you would agree that that's not uncommon within your friend group?
I would say that I wouldn't know that. I feel like a lot of my friends have other ways of coping, and it's not always cutting.
Okay, but some other friends, and we don't need to name names, but some other friends have shared with you that that's something that they've done, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So I just want to take you through chronologically here quickly. You met Ezra, she's bubbly, right?
Right.
Easy to talk to. Yes?
Yes.
Friendly,
Yes.
outgoing,
Yes.
trusty.
At the time, yeah, I didn't know her very well.
She was trusting of others. Not that you were trusting of her, she is trusting of others, correct? She was open and generous.
She was pretty open.
Okay. Generous.
Yeah.
She talked to you about Jason Mengel, who she was living with, correct?
Yes.
Told you about how he was putting her down, correct?
Yes.
That he was, I think your terms were, she was worried about how he was changing her, correct?
Oh, no, he was worried about how she was changing her image, that she was changing. And he was nervous he was losing the person he loved.
This is what Ezra had expressed.
Yes, Ezra told me about, yeah.
So
the whole
Ezra
image
told
thing.
you about what Jason told her.
Yes, and then I later heard it from Jason,
Okay.
different time.
So Ezra was growing in a certain direction, and it sounds like Jason didn't like that direction in which he was growing or evolving, correct?
Correct. It seemed like he was getting nervous.
And then in February, on February 24th, you were at Racy's inside, correct?
Correct.
And you looked out the window and you saw Jason, right?
Correct.
And you saw Ezra.
Yes.
And Jason, you said, looked angry.
Yeah.
He was waving his arms around.
Yes.
Without hearing it, did it appear as if he was yelling?
Yes.
Pointing his finger or shaking his hands at Ezra?
Doing, a lot of arm gestures.
Okay. And Ezra was complicit.
Yeah.
She stood there.
Yeah.
Meekly.
I guess she just stood there.
She stood there, correct? You didn't see her making any physical response. Agreed?
I remember.
It did not appear as if she was even verbally responding. Agreed?
I suppose I couldn't hear anything, so I couldn't say.
But you didn't see anything to indicate that she was making words with her mouth, right?
No, I had a better angle of Jason.
Okay. Did you see Jason pause to appear to listen at any time, or was it just Jason was on an angry rant?
I don't remember fully, but it was mostly Jason speaking. Yes.
And then after that, you didn't see much of Ezra around Racy's. Agreed?
Agreed.
Prior to that, you'd heard that her and Alex were also in a relationship, correct?
Correct.
And that Alex loved her, correct?
Correct.
And then on this February 24th, Alex was spoken to by Jason as well, correct?
Correct.
And what you heard was a stern, angry voice, correct?
Like I said, yes. When he came inside, he said, "You need to come outside with me. I need to talk to you." And that's the voice I heard. It was stern and it was serious.
And when, after Jason had been done moving his arms and being angry at Ezra, did you see where Ezra went?
I know that after he was done
Did you see
speaking,
where Ezra went?
her and Jason went over into an alleyway area after he was done speaking to John and Alex. I don't know where she went while he was talking to them. I'm assuming outside on the side, but I don't know specifically where she was while he was talking to them.
She didn't come into Racy's.
I don't
She
know.
was out of your view.
Yes.
And at some point you saw Jason go over and, for lack of a better term, collect her.
I couldn't see. At that point, there wasn't windows on that part. There's 2 big windows, and I could only see what was going on there, and she was out of my view.
Okay,
So I'm not sure.
So once Ezra left Jason, you didn't see Ezra again that night, correct?
No. We left Racy's to go to the art pop-up, and the last time I saw her that day was when she was talking to Jason by the alleyway
Okay.
at Racy's.
And so
That's why she didn't show up. Sorry.
You're fine. I just want to make sure I get the chronology right.
Yeah.
But Jason and Ezra outside, correct?
Yes.
You don't see Ezra anymore.
Right.
You see Jason yelling at Alex,
Correct.
Jason yelling at John,
Correct.
John and Alex leave. Or
Alex was still outside. I don't remember where John went.
you come
He
out,
might have still been inside. I know he came back inside.
you come outside and you observe Jason.
I only saw Alex on the bench. At this point, Jason and Ezra were off talking in the alleyway area.
So you came outside and you observed Jason.
I observed Alex.
In addition to observing Alex, you observed Jason.
I suppose. Not close.
Sure.
But yes.
You saw him with your eyes.
Yes. While I was leaving, yes.
And he was in the alley.
Yes.
And he was in the alley with Ezra.
Right.
And that's the last thing you saw that night, correct?
Yes. Correct.
That's all I have. Thanks.
Any redirect?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Larson. That's all. Please step down. And she released from her subpoena for you to go?
She is for today, but she's not fully released.
Okay. So you may have some reason to recall her?
Yes.
All right. What would be the next witness, Mr.?
Next witness would be Court Fox, Your Honor. I expect he's going to be around.
All right.
At least half hour, 45 minutes, if not longer.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a good spot to break for today. We have some other things that we have to talk about that hopefully will save.
I didn't know if you were there or not.
Yeah, hang on. Okay. Whew.
I don't know. I got weird feelings about that last girl,
Oh yeah? What's up?
Brianna. I don't know. I think that she may have had a crush on Ezra, and Ezra used it.
Why do you think that?
Well, I don't know. It's just a feeling I get. Because she seemed salty and Ezra was crying. I don't know. I just feel like Ezra used... Can you say... I'm trying to think of another word.
You can say the word sexuality if that's the word you're trying to say.
Yeah. I think she used her sexuality to manipulate people.
Huh. And you got all that from that testimony?
Yeah.
From what she actually said or just what you feel? I'm not just
Well-
asking. I'm just curious.
Yeah, from things she said and from what I feel.
Huh.
and from their actions.
Huh. Interesting.
I know, that's why I was yelling at Dr. B. I needed her here.
Well,
I would like to know what she felt about it. Because she knows, obviously
Right.
she knows.
yeah, obviously.
I just
I
think
mean-
there's more to those two story than we're going to get from that
Good night,
testimony.
Max 2002. This is, I don't know. I didn't get that.
See? Allie 79 saw it too.
Okay, all right. This is what I picked up from her. I'm not, this is my thing. I don't do a lot of, I can't pick up, or I can, but I don't pay attention to vibes that I pick up from watching somebody like this. I'm better at when people, I have experience with them in person, but not watching them on a screen. You know what I mean? So for me, what I got from her is that I do think that she liked Ezra. I do think she liked her a lot, but I'm not so sure about that liking. I don't think that I didn't get that vibe from her. What I got is that Ezra, from a combination of all three of the witnesses, actually, is that Ezra told people what she wanted to tell them. She told specific people specific things for specific reasons. What I picked up on from Ezra's demeanor towards her, she wasn't crying over this girl. She was crying when she mentioned Jason. That's what upset Ezra, not this girl. What she said, what she testified to that Jason had told her. That's when she started the crying. That's what I picked up.
Oh, yeah, that's true too.
And it seemed to me that the nature
But
of
4 people in the chat and me all said that.
I'm not
They
saying
think
that it
that.
didn't happen. I wasn't there. I have no idea of knowing. And I kind of am not looking at the case that way. Like, I'm trying to hear what she's actually saying, because I'm going to have to be the one that talks about what they can and can't prove. You know what I mean? You guys all rely on me to explain stuff like that. So I can't be getting all caught up in my feelers.
Well, no, I just think it shows that she was a manipulator.
Well, okay, but here's the thing, and do I think that she was manipulative? Yeah, I think she was I think she was manipulative, but that's not the case here. That's not where we're trying to decide. We're trying to decide whether there is no doubt that she's the one that unalived him. It is how that came about. Was she the aggressor and the antagonist in this situation, which is what the state says, or was she a victim and this was self-defense? They're almost going for something similar to what the defense went for with Eileen Wuornos. So when she was on trial, what happened? They brought in her childhood, which was traumatic, but more than that, the what was his first name? Something Mallory. I know his last name was Mallory. He was from Clearwater, actually. And he had a record, a very bad record. He was an SAer.
Oh, yeah.
And he was a SO, not of children though, but grown women. Anyway, so what they were saying is the defense for her was basically that after that encounter, combined with her childhood, after that, she imagined there were real threats, right? And that's why she lashed out. That's why she did what she did. I think that that's what they're going for here with Ezra's defense. So to me, she's clearly manipulative on some level, but guess what? Almost every human being on the planet is manipulative in some way or another. That's not that big of a deal to me. What I'm trying to figure out here is why she did what she did. Did she do it like they said, like the prosecution is alleging, or did she do it the way that, because it was out of self-defense? And what I paid attention to particularly is, what is it that that girl testified to that caused Ezra to be emotional? And it was Jason. When she
Yes.
testified to what she was told by Jason, that is when Ezra started to cry. Now, I don't know what that means beyond that right now, because I don't know anything else and I haven't heard anything else, and I didn't look up anything. But I can tell you that I think that Ezra worked very hard at ingratiating herself with these people. She worked hard to become part of their friend group. And I think that what was important is what she testified to as far as the Jason Hansen, what she knew about that situation with Ezra, because remember what they claimed had happened, right? And
Right.
that's what they're trying to establish. I just think that
Yeah, she we're gonna see her police interview about Jason Hansen, which is a different person than
Right.
Jason. Forget his last name.
it's like Mendel's or something.
Yeah, Mingle.
Mengels. So here's the thing with that. He is Jason Mengels is considerably older than Ezra, and that
Yeah,
does
like
lead
17
to
years.
that leads to a power dynamic. It's undeniable. If you take two, and I don't like to use this word, but relatively normal individuals, seem on the surface, everybody has their quirks, right? Inherently, lessons and wisdom come from the longer you're on this earth. The more you're around, the more things happen, the more things you learn. So inherently there is a weird power dynamic because of the incredible age gap. 17 years is a long time.
Right.
And they're at that point when 17 years is a big difference. There gets to be a point, like there's not going to be a whole lot of difference between me at 45 and somebody who's 62, 17 be 62 years older than me. I mean, not really. You know what I mean? It's different when you're younger. When you're
Yes.
20 and the person's 37, that's a huge
Well,
difference.
she was 19 and he was
Right.
33, I think, when they met.
Right. I just
Yeah,
did
it's
it.
a
I
huge
just
difference.
wanted to do even numbers because I already did the hard math, adding 17 and 45.
Me at 19 and me at 33, there was a big difference.
Me at 20 and me at 25 was a big difference. Me at
Right.
25 and me at 30 was a difference. And after I hit 40, man, huge difference. A lot of people will say, the older you, like after you hit 40, you get more confidence. And I don't know if it's confidence or just, I don't care. I guess it is confident. I'm secure in who I am. And that's that.
Well,
It's
I
nice.
think I stopped at 33 and I just am forever going to be that age. I've decided.
I mean,
I found it interesting that the defense attorney kept saying that she was generous. I don't know if, I think Aubrey said in her testimony that she rarely paid for her own coffee. She always had other people buy it for her.
I think that he
But
was
now-
trying to get her. I think he was trying to get that back under control.
Right. No, when I was that age and I went to the bar, I hardly ever paid for drinks.
Okay. That's at a bar. We're talking about a coffee shop. Like, I get where they live. There's probably not like, a whole lot of nightlife or whatever. But generous can mean different things. Generous can mean you can be generous with money, obviously. You can be generous with your time. You can be generous with a lot of different things. And that's yeah. And so maybe that's what he was trying to get out of her, is that Ezra is generous with her time for her friends, meaning if they called or if they text or whatever. I'm sorry, no, stop, Mom. Maybe you're in my head. Clean up in there, would you? I got some cobwebs and some old files that need going through. Anyway, I feel like, maybe he was trying to say that Ezra is the type of person that if if a friend called or texted her and needed her, she would, do whatever she could to help. She was a fixer. Maybe that's what he meant. I don't know, but do I think that I had a hard time reading her as far as her affection towards Ezra, because to me, what I could completely hear and see in her was the anxiety. No, you can say that, Heather. It's okay. There's just certain, like the R word, like you have to say SA, you have to say SO, that kind of stuff. That's what they really get their panties in a bunch over. Although I'm just, there's some stuff I can't even believe they allow, but they do. I always err on the side of caution. But anyway, I could tell that she was incredibly anxious. I don't think she was playing. I don't think she was trying to be extra. I think she was I could hear it in her voice, and I could see it in her breathing and her fidgeting, and then I knew she was doing something under that table, but I didn't realize what it was until the end there when she busted out with the rubber band that
I
she
didn't
was
even
playing
see that.
with. She was very, very anxious.
Yeah, she
And
said she was a cutter too.
yeah.
That's sad.
And see, I think that and then the other thing that caught me and that I thought was interesting that she said was that at a certain point she really didn't see or hang around with Ezra too much because it was drama and she didn't want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I caught that too.
And
I've learned a lot. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I've learned a lot. I thought that too, but I didn't hear about the Jason part. I thought she started crying to make the girl feel bad too, so she wouldn't say anything.
I watched it very, very carefully. I was watching it on the laptop, and then I have my phone, so I rewound it a little bit to watch. And it is when she brought her pet mouse. Would she bring her Willard? Tear it. I just feel like I think she wanted to be friends with Ezra. And maybe she did have a little crush on her, and but maybe the way that she was feeling is that it was really a one-sided friendship. Ezra was a taker and not a giver, which is why she would not say yes to the generous question. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think Ezra was a taker, not a giver.
But I thought that
we'll get more into that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
After you see more, you'll see why.
I want to hear more testimony, obviously, from other people that knew her, but I'm very anxious and curious for Jason Mengel's testimony and Ezra's testimony. Right. Because not so much on direct, because those are easy lob questions, but on cross will tell you a lot. But anyway, I think that
oh, Jason's is a 3-parter.
Oh yeah, I saw. I looked. I already looked. I
just did those this week.
I think that what I'm curious about though is that when she was testifying, this last girl, about Ezra's appearance changing, and that Jason had a problem with it. I found that to be interesting in that she was removing piercings.
Mhm.
I would have thought that him being almost 40 and her, well, 33, I guess isn't almost 40. I keep doing the 2017 and that's not right. 33-year-old. I would think that he, especially being military and, I would think that that's what he would want. Somebody more, and I hate to use this word because normal is such a friggin' relative term, but somebody more conservative.
Right.
Like spicy on the inside, but conservative on the outside. You know what I mean? And I think that it's interesting that it was the other way. And yeah. But on the whole, I didn't learn anything really that much. One way or the other. That would make me, they haven't presented anything yet to tell me that she's guilty of this crime. They're talking about, she does, Heather. She did look good with her piercings. At this point, they haven't presented anything to me one way or the other than the attempt to cherry pick out some, phrases and sentences and whatnot from Alex's journal. Because even the ones they did pick out don't concern me. But I think that I tend to.
Well, they redacted a lot for the jury. So I don't know. We'll never know what all it said.
Well, yeah.
And also the piercings, which we're not going to watch the outside of the jury, so I'll tell y'all. The defense objects to a picture that the prosecution wants to put up. It was, those big whiteboards they use?
Mm-hmm.
They put a picture of her on there with her piercings, and they objected, saying that it'll look bad to the jury with her having all those piercings, which I thought was weird. But
well, I actually I cannot. I see that.
Yeah, I understand it, but I don't know. I thought it was weird they used that picture when there were so many others, which I guess it's not weird. They used it for a reason.
I would
but
imagine
they act like, well, no, we got this off Instagram. We didn't notice.
I would imagine that they used that specific picture. I think probably it's less about the piercings, and that's why they used it. But it's probably, I don't know. I'm just guessing here because I haven't seen the testimony. But it seems to me like they would be, maybe it's closer to one of the last few pictures that was put up before the murder. I don't know. There has to be a reason they put that up there. People with piercings don't commit murder. I have a nose ring. I'm not gonna, I don't have a nose ring. My nose is pierced. I wear a little stud, but I don't have a very big nose, so I can't. I always tried to wear a ring, but because I have such a small nose, I can't get the ring to be like close because I don't want it sticking out. But anyway, that's not even
nose ring.
Yeah, Mo, I've had my nose pierced for decades.
How did I not even notice that when I was with you for a week?
You don't love me as much as I love you, apparently.
That's why when I worked at the bank, I was like, gosh, if anybody ever robs us, I will not be able to describe the person.
Yeah, Allie, 79. I think people have moved past that in this decade. If it were closer to, say, 2005, somewhere in that vicinity, yeah, I would think, okay, but I could see it, but not in, she's a pretty girl and she probably is incredibly intelligent. And I don't know why she did what she did, what she was thinking of.
She's so intelligent.
I mean,
I don't know. She can't spell, but I guess that doesn't mean anything. Because my husband's very intelligent and he can't spell.
There's there's all kinds of different intelligence. some people are extremely intelligent and they have like a learning disability that keeps you from being able to spell. That's possible. But there's different kinds of intelligence. Being able to read people and manipulate them and get them to do certain things does require a level of intelligence,
That's true.
you know.
Well, it comes into play where Jason Mingle called her the R word.
Mm.
And she said that's very sensitive for her. So I don't know if she had, that's why I said I don't know if she had learning disabilities or something.
Well,
But yeah,
I mean,
she's intelligent in her own way. I agree
Right.
on that.
right. So I'm just saying, like, I think at this point right now, where I'm at now, I'm not going to lie and pretend that I didn't hear the opening statement where the state reminds everybody several times that she's a liar and that the injuries sustained on her body were self-inflicted. That is not going to be something I can put out of my head, but you know, I'm still keeping a somewhat open mind because I want to see what the defense brings. I kind of am seeing now the way the prosecution obviously is going to go, but I do think it was important for them to get the people that knew both Alex and Ezra, but then more importantly, the last witness who knew Alex, Ezra, and Jason. That was important for them to get up there on the stand, I think.
Right. And we'll have some more of them.
Yeah.
Have we gotten to the doctor yet?
The medical examiner?
No,
No.
Okay.
No, we haven't. So we're not there yet. So I guess in conclusion, I still don't know.
Yeah, I think both sides are doing good.
I think they are too. But this is what's interesting to me. The one time that it would have been a good hearsay objection was when the state asked Brianna, what did Ezra tell you that Jason said? That technically, that the way that question was asked, that is hearsay.
Right.
Now, had they said, did Ezra talk to you about her relationship with Jason? Yes. What did Ezra tell you? That she could testify to, but she really, I mean, I suppose in a way she could testify to what, but most of the time that's ruled as hearsay because Ezra is repeating something that Jason said, and we don't know that to be fact. So I feel that would have been a better and more worthwhile objection as to hearsay in that scenario that they didn't take, which is weird. But there were other ones that they were really trying to. I mean, hell, one of like on the last, I don't know, 10 or 15 questions, he objected to two things. Relevance.
So hard.
Well,
is it okay? Let me ask you this.
Okay.
If you get a text message from me and you're on the stand, but I'm not the defendant, and they ask you, what did Mo say in her text message? Is that hearsay?
No.
Well, they argue that. Well, we'll talk about it when it happens.
I'll explain it to you. What else was in the text message? If you sent me a text that said, I love bologna sandwiches. Okay.
I do love bologna sandwiches.
I know. And I said, I could testify to. If you sent me a text message that read, I love bologna sandwiches, and you will never believe what my husband said to me about liking bologna sandwiches. I could not testify to what you told me your husband said. I could only testify to the part that is direct because there's no way to validate whether your husband said that to you or not. You could be totally making up a story that your husband had a bad reaction to your love of bologna sandwiches. That's hearsay. You
Right.
can only testify to something that you heard directly.
Right. Well, when we get there, I'll have to listen again and I'll tell you which part it is. Well, you'll
Okay.
probably hear it and know.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I can't remember what exactly went down. I just remember the text message.
And
part.
there's a lot of stuff that the defense is working very, very hard to keep out,
Mhm.
which that's their job. I can't get mad at that. You know, so
Yeah, the outside of the jury is very, very interesting. But
I want to watch it after the fact. Like, I don't want
yeah,
to watch
it's just
it
too
during
much
because
to
it's
watch
too
right now.
contaminating, you know?
Right. I agree. And Jason's, I did separate it because in the middle of his, they had a long one and I just took it out.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that.
Because I figured people would want to watch that after.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, I'm glad I went a little earlier than 9 o'clock because this,
Yeah, we got through a lot.
we did. Maybe that's what I'll start doing. Instead of doing it at 9 o'clock, I'm just going to do it at 8:30. I like hearing the lawyers argue too, Nonstop Mom. It's one of my favorite parts of the trial, but I want to hear it at the end only because there's a lot of it in this trial, number one, and it's, you know, but at this, so I want us to hear it, but I think that the testimony is probably better for us to hear now and then save the middle, because if they break it up, especially if they're breaking it up between testimony, then it's hard to keep straight what was said. Do you know what I mean? Well, maybe it's just me, but I don't know. But I just wanted to thank everybody for being here tonight. And we'll be back tomorrow night. I'm going to do it at 8:30 though. I think that will work better. And so then we'll.
Yeah. Tomorrow is two more friends. Actually, Aubrey's sister.
Let me see.
And
I'm listening to you.
A roommate and then two police officers.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, they're fairly. We should be able to get through quite a bit of this tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks you guys for coming. I guess I'll
Thanks,
see
everyone.
you.
Make
Thank
sure
you,
you hit that
Mo.
thumbs up.
Yes, please hit the thumbs up or the thumbs down. I don't care. Just hit one of them.
No, just hit the thumbs up.
All right. I'll see
Love
y'all
y'all.
tomorrow. Good night. Bye-bye.